Christmas from everybody here at Brandon's World, and welcome to the 2023 Brandon's World Merry Christmas slash Happy Holidays slash Happy New Year special. This is the third year that we are doing this special, and I cannot wait because every year it gets bigger and bigger. Now, of course, last year I was struggling through an illness over this, so the quality was not as great. This year, everybody here at Brand's World looks to knock out the Merry Christmas 2023 edition out of the park. We will have 5 different segments on today's Merry Christmas special. First, I will be giving my predictions for the NFL awards at the end of the 2023 NFL season. Then, my buddy Jalen Sandvik, who you know have come on this show multiple times, we play one of your favorite games, NFL, fair if it's true or foul if it's false. And then I will give my predictions for the WWE Slammy Awards, which is, of course, something WWE used to do back in the day. They don't do as much anymore. It used to be on regular television. Now it's more over the internet. We bring it back in a tremendous year for the company and professional wrestling as a whole. Speaking of professional wrestling, speaking of the NFL, after that, I dive into both those topics with my good buddy, Michael Reiner. And to end the Merry Christmas special, I will be giving my predictions for 2024 in sports. Now, that does not necessarily mean I'm going to give my Super Bowl champion, my NBA champion, my World Series champion, etc. But I'm going to give you some big picture items that I think will come down in the next calendar year. We have grown so much, not only on the audio side, but on the video side this year at Brandon's World. On the audio side, throughout today's special, you will be hearing some Christmas music, especially in the NFL awards and WWE Slammy portions. I cannot do it on YouTube, unfortunately, due to copyright, but audio-wise, we can play all the Christmas songs we want. It's a part of it. Again, here at Brandon's World, we thank you so much for following with us as we have grown this podcast tremendously over the last year. So make sure you grab your favorite cookie. Delicioso. Make sure you grab your favorite holiday drink. Sparkly. And let's get into the Brandon's World Christmas Special. And welcome back to the Brandon's World Christmas Special. It is time to go over my predictions for the 2023 NFL Awards. Now, this is being recorded prior to the start of Week 15 of the 2023 NFL season. We're going to start in no place other than MVP, who I believe the winner will be Lamar Jackson, followed by runner-ups in no particular order: Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts, and Tyreek Hill. Now, the reason why I went with Lamar Jackson is I really think this comes down to Lamar Jackson and Brock Purdy. I think the Baltimore Ravens will defeat the San Francisco 49ers head-to-head on Christmas night, which will put Lamar Jackson in the spot to win MVP, because I do think the Baltimore Ravens will be the #1 seed in the AFC. Now, I went back and thought about it because we all know the Baltimore Ravens offense the last 2 years. Without Lamar Jackson, they've been a completely different team. They've almost been unwatchable. And with the amount of yards and the amount of plays that Lamar Jackson accumulates, not only with his arm, but with his legs, I think is a big reason why he will win MVP this year. As he put up the historic numbers that he did during his 2019 MVP reign. No, but it's been a weird year where not a lot of people have. Dak Prescott is certainly in the conversation, but I think, my predictions are correct. He loses at Buffalo. He loses at Miami. That pretty much knocks him out of the running. I do think Jalen Hurts has a chance if the Eagles run the table the last 4 games. At Seattle versus the Giants versus Arizona, at the Giants, he puts up historic numbers, but I think the turnovers, it's what's going to cost Hurts. Tyreek Hill, we all know he's having a great year at wide receiver, but I don't know if he gets that Calvin Johnson mark. Don't know if he gets over 2,000 yards. We know the impact he has on this Miami Dolphins offense, but I think he's a better candidate for Offensive Player of the Year with that historic season as opposed to MVP because we all know if you don't have a quarterback in sports, you're not winning. And the problem with Brock Purdy, I just said if you don't have a quarterback in this sport, you're not winning. Well, people think Purdy is only successful because of Christian McCaffrey, because of George Kittle, because of Debo Samuel, because of Trent Williams, because of Brandon Ayuk. Yes, Brock Purdy has a lot of talent around him, but so did Nick Mullins, so did Jimmy Garoppolo, so did Trey Lance, etc. I still think Brock Purdy's weakness is if you get him off his first read, he really struggles in the pocket. I think he's a very good quarterback. I don't think he's a difference maker at the position, but he's certainly leading one of the best teams in football, which is why he's right up there with Lamar Jackson. But again, I think the Ravens beat the Niners on Christmas night, and that is ultimately the difference. For Offensive Player of the Year, I have two candidates. I have Tyreek Hill, who I just said I think he's going to go on a historic rate of wide receiver. Don't know if he's going to make those Calvin Johnson numbers, but it's the best receiving season we've seen out of a wide receiver in at least the past decade. So I do think he's going to win it. But I would also throw in there Dak Prescott because he is having the best season of his career for the Dallas Cowboys. After leading the league in interceptions last year in only 12 games played, Dak has carried the Cowboys to look like the most legitimate Super Bowl threat they have been since winning those Super Bowls in the 1990s. Now, Defensive Player of the Year. This is not real cut and dry, though I think there are two candidates that really stand out. One of them, who I think will win it, will be Deron Bland, the defensive back of the Cowboys. Obviously, another. Again, we talk about awards, we need to look at historic seasons. And Deron Bland, those 5 interception returns for a touchdown, never been done in the history of the NFL. According to Pro Football Focus, he is the number one corner in the NFL this year. My other candidate would be Myles Garrett, who, I thought, midway through this season was leading candidate for Defensive Player of the Year, but he has not gotten the sack production that he had earlier in the season. The last month, it's really dropped down, which is why I think he's now in second place opposite of Deron Bland. For Offensive Rookie of the Year, I have three candidates. I think the winner, no doubt about it, is CJ Stroud, what he's done with the Houston Texans. Again, I do think that I thought the Texans were going to be pretty good this year. I thought they were going to win 6 to 7 games, but I did not expect them to be in the playoff mix in the AFC. At this point in time of the recording, he does lead the league in passing. He's had to throw a lot outside of a little bit of a burst from Devin Singletary. They have not had much of a run game. A lot of it has revolved on CJ Stroud's shoulders. Now, over the last month, he has not been as effective, but I think out of all the rookies this year, he is clear cut Offensive Rookie of the Year. Jordan Addison has had a really good year for the Vikings, replacing Adam Thielen as that number 2 wide receiver. And definitely, along with CJ Stroud, you have Tank Dell, who came in out of the third round and has made a huge impact, more than Jackson Smith and Jigma, more than Jordan Addison, arguably, for the Texans, and helping CJ Stroud lead that rebirth. For Defensive Rookie of the Year, I have Devin Witherspoon, the cornerback from Seattle, who's been absolutely terrific. I also think Jalen Carter for the Philadelphia Eagles has made his standout already as one of the best defensive linemen in football, though I think over again the last month or so, Witherspoon has sort of separated as more teams are double teaming Jalen Carter. It's not as much his fault. And Will Anderson has started to come on as of late. Again, the Texans with CJ Stroud, Tank Dell, Will Anderson, those rookies really leading the way. But Will Anderson's team just lost the Jets at the time of this recording last week. He did not have much of an impact, so I think that kind of demotes him. But I think those are your three candidates with Devin Witherspoon ultimately winning it. For Coach of the Year, this is a really interesting conversation. I think there are four names. A lot of people want to put Kyle Shanahan at the top of that list, but we all expected the San Francisco 49ers to be a really good football team. These are teams that, in my opinion, either dealt with injuries or teams that we did not think were going to be as good as they are. And the way that they have sort of manufactured through the season has been absolutely incredible. I think without a doubt, and I banged on this man a lot because he's in my hometown. If Kevin Stefanski gets the Cleveland Browns to the playoffs with quarterbacks this year in Deshaun Watson, PJ Walker, Dorian Thompson Robinson, and Joe Flacco, who came off the street from watching NFL Sundays at his parents' house to quarterbacking the Cleveland Browns into the playoffs. Without a doubt, Kevin Stefanski, who, yes, he gets a knock because sometimes he tries things he shouldn't try, and sometimes he goes very conservative with his play calling. At the end of the day, Cleveland Browns fans, they want to run this man out of town. And yet, all he's done is win games. Jim Schwartz has fixed that defense, at least at home. The defense this year, uh, has played at a historic rate, which is why the Kevin Stefanski should be in line for a potential NFL Coach of the Year. Another guy, Shane Steichen. We all thought he was going to be a good coach for the Indianapolis Colts, but we thought he was going to have Anthony Richardson at quarterback. When they had to go essentially week 4 this year to Gardner Minshew for the rest of the year, we all kind of thought the Colts were going to have to tank, and they are right in the middle of it in the AFC playoff picture. And at this point in time, without Jonathan Taylor, who, of course, missed the first month of the season, then he's missed the last couple weeks, and they've just rotated different backs and different players. He's got Michael Pittman back to being a number one wide receiver. We all knew Steichen was brilliant when he was the offensive coordinator with the Chargers with Justin Herbert, when he was the offensive coordinator the last 2 years with my Philadelphia Eagles with Jalen Hurts. But what Steichen has done with this Colts team, which we all thought would be better because of Richardson, what he's doing with Steichen and or with Minshew, and by the way, did not win a game this year. That Anthony Richardson started. And Anthony Richardson never finished a game this year is unbelievable. And then, obviously, we all know what D'Amico Ryans has done in Houston. I mentioned it a little bit earlier, with CJ Stroud as a rookie, Tank Dell as a rookie, Will Anderson as a rookie. I expected the Texans to win about 6, 7 games this year. I did not expect them to be in the thick of it in the AFC wild card race. But at the end of the day here, I do worry about Houston a little bit because they struggled against Arizona. They struggled against Denver. They lost to the Jets at the time of this recording last week. So that's why I don't think he has a great chance to win it. They also lost to Jacksonville. And I think if he doesn't win the division, it's going to be very tough for Houston to slide into that 7th spot now, especially CJ Stroud having a concussion. He may not play at the time of this recording this week against Tennessee. So that's why I think he falls out of it. But then there's Sean Payton, who, Sean Payton has done a tremendous job with the Denver Broncos this year. After they gave up 70 points to the Miami Dolphins in week 3, all they've done is, win 7 out of their last 8 games. They're 7-6. Russell Wilson's playing very good football. Their defense, which again was historically bad at the start of the year, has completely turned around. They're running the football, and he's getting what he can out of this Denver Broncos roster. And Denver, who all of a sudden we all thought were dead, they were going to have to move on from Russell Wilson. This was going to be a bigger rebuild than Sean Payton thought. Denver has actually a legitimate shot to make it in the postseason in the AFC. What an incredible turnaround. Again, I think all 4 of those guys, Kevin Stefanski, Shane Steichen, D'Amico Ryans, Sean Payton, all 4 incredible stories, either dealing with injuries or bad losses or bad starts, and it would have turned their season around, which is why I go with one of them as opposed to a Kyle Shanahan, just because San Francisco is dominating. Mike McCarthy would obviously be a name to look out for with how well Dallas has played. But again, we all thought Dallas would win 11, 12 games. The biggest thing here, Stefanski doing it with 4 quarterbacks, Steichen doing it with a backup, D'Amico Ryans doing it where his lead players are rookies, and Sean Payton turning Denver completely around from what they were a year ago. Now we get to the play of the year. Let's go ahead and roll the audio.
Tua out to Hill, and that goes nowhere. Ball's loose. It is loose and picked up and lateraled. Brian Cook. Touchdown.
I mean, have you ever seen anything like that in your entire life? That was a crazy lateral play, and it may end up that game between the Chiefs and the Dolphins could be the difference between who gets the number 2 seed and the number 3 seed in the AFC. And finally, the comeback player of the year, without a doubt, is Damar Hamlin. We started this year on the Branch World Podcast. The first podcast I did of 2023 was titled Damar Hamlin. Of course, it was supposed to be a recap of week 17 of the 2022 NFL season, but then the incident happened with him on Monday Night Football. And at that point, I decided to essentially cancel the show. I was shaken up. I could not think about work the next day. It was very hard to do my full-time job that I have, just because you all realize that anything like that could happen at any given time. And the fact that we all almost witnessed a NFL player lose their lives on the field like that in the sport of an eye was incredibly devastating. It was a very hard week. It was a very hard month for not only the Bills, but the entire NFL community. And to see Damar Hamlin this year get back on an NFL field, it doesn't matter. There's a lot of players, obviously, every year that overcome injuries and get back on the field. But Damar Hamlin's story and that night will always stick with us 20, 30, whatever years down the line. And for that reason, Damar Hamlin is, without a shadow of doubt, no debate, the NFL comeback player of the year. So MVP, I will have Lamar Jackson. The offensive player of the year, Tyreek Hill. Defensive player of the year, Deron Bland. Offensive rookie of the year, CJ Stroud. Defensive rookie of the year, Devin Witherspoon. Coach of the year, in my opinion, Kevin Stefanski. Play of the year is that Chiefs lateral for a touchdown against Miami. And comeback player of the year, Damar Hamlin. Let me know who you think of the NFL awards. Let me know what you think of my predictions. You can put them down below. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back into the Brandon's World Christmas special. And as promised, I have the man, the myth, the legend, Jalen Sandvik, back to play your favorite game. Fair if it's true, foul if it's false. NFL edition. Jalen was just on the podcast a couple weeks ago. You can go check that out. What's going on, bud?
What's up? Merry Christmas to all you lovely listeners out there. Happy holidays, whatever you celebrate. Happy holidays. Enjoy this time. But I'm ready to talk football, Brandon. I don't know about you, but I'm ready to talk football.
Yeah, and just to clarify, of course, usually me and Jay, when we do a fair or foul NFL and NBA, we're not going to do NBA just yet because I want to wait until we get into the meat and potatoes of the regular season. Maybe around March, as we head into the playoffs, we'll do it around there. But as we get to the end of the NFL season, you guys just heard in a previous segment my 2023 NFL award predictions for the end of the year. This is the NFL Fair or Foul edition. Jalen's got about 30 questions. He's going to moderate. Let's get to it.
All right, Brandon, sir, one of my best friends in all of life. My first question here is about Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski.
Okay.
Kevin Stefanski should definitely win Coach of the Year 100%.
Okay, so I just had this conversation. I was telling Jay when I might have been a little bit late to this recording because I was just recording another podcast with my man, Christian Hidden, which will be up earlier this week. And we talked about Kevin Stefanski. And I said, if Kevin Stefanski makes the playoffs with 4 quarterbacks, and I said this in my NFL awards as well, Kevin Stefanski deserves to be Coach of the Year. I do believe the Browns are going to make the playoffs. So with that logic, I will say fair.
I had a heated debate with someone. This question came up. Someone said Stefanski's Coach of the Year. I said I disagree. I disagree with you, but it's not my call. Brandon, next one is about your Philadelphia Eagles.
Okay.
The Philadelphia Eagles are on fraud alert if they lose their next games.
Foul. Because they're not going to lose at the time of this recording. It's yet to be against Seattle in Seattle, which I mean, theoretically they could lose. Excuse me. They're not going to lose to the Giants at home. They're not going to lose to Arizona at home, and they're not going to lose to the Giants at the Giants to end the year. So I say foul to that.
Speaking of the Giants, what about my boy Tommy Cutlass? He's Italian.
Oh man,
he's Italian, right? He's got a little bit of me and him are a lot alike, even though he's more of Italian than I am. But he's Italian. Let's talk some Tommy Cutlass. Tommy, my boy, will get an extension to be starting for the Giants next year.
Jay, when he's a third string quarterback, stop it. Tommy DeVito is not special. He's a practice squad quarterback the Giants are somehow winning with.
Oh, come on.
Wow.
You're not even buying into the hype, Brandon?
Nope, I'm not even buying into the hype. As a matter of fact, if I had a choice between Danny Dimes and Tommy DeVito, I would unfortunately take Danny Dimes. That's not even a choice.
Oh, come on. He's Italian. You don't like the Italian?
I don't think he has anything special about him. I don't think he has a good arm. I don't think he does anything well.
Have you seen that? I know you're not on TikTok, but this clip has definitely been on Twitter. There's this guy, and he's Italian dude. He owns his own restaurant, and he talks about every time the Giants win, he goes, Giants are 3-0. You know why? Because that quarterback's Italian. He's Italian. That's how I feel. I love me some Tommy.
They are winning because of Brian Dable, not because of Tommy freaking DeVito.
Okay, Brandon, I'm not on the hate train, buddy. You need to get in Tommy's spirit. All right, let's talk about the Bears.
The Bears.
The Bears.
Maybe the most fascinating team in the NFL this offseason.
You know what? They were my dark horse, and look it. They're coming out of the dark. But this one is about the cheating, sniveling. You know who I'm talking about. It's that coach from up north. He will be the coach of the 2024-25 Chicago Bears.
That is going to be foul. I can't believe I'm saying this because I wouldn't do it, but I think Matt Eberflus is going to be the head coach of the Chicago Bears next year.
Whoa, no way.
I think that they're going to keep Eberflus, and I am starting to believe that they're going to keep Justin Fields. I wouldn't do either one of them. I'd go and get Caleb Williams, and I'd move on Fields. But again, the question is, will he? I think the Bears are going to stay pat, and I think it's going to be a big mistake.
So you're going to foul here. You're staying. We have not had one fair yet, Brandon.
Yes, we had fair with Stefanski being the coach of the year.
Oh, yeah. Of course you give Stefanski the fair.
Kevin Stefanski has been with 4 different quarterbacks this year. If he gets the team to the playoffs, he's absolutely the coach of the year.
Okay. Fine. Stefanski's biggest haters finally giving him props.
Hey, listen, I've acknowledged I don't love everything Stefanski does, but he's making chicken stew out of chicken boy.
Yeah. All right. We're gonna talk more about your Philadelphia Eagles here.
Oh boy.
No. I wrote this, and I think I know you're gonna say fair, but there's a chance you say foul. Jason Kelce, this is just opinion based. Jason Kelce is a top 5 center of all time in the NFL.
Of all time, easily fair. I hope he doesn't retire at the end of this year. I think he might be the best. I can't name another center with as much impact on the game as Jason Kelce has had.
You know what? I don't disagree there. I'm saying I'm gonna go. I don't disagree. Now I wrote this. My next one below that I cannot use because I wrote, as you know, I told you I started this a couple weeks ago, and the question says, "Will Staley get fired?" And as of noon today, they fired their GM, and so that's fun. But my next one on the list is about Kermit the Frog, aka Patrick Mahomes, aka
Okay.
we got that. He has every right to complain about that call, that offside call. Fair.
Foul. Jalen, he was offsides.
He was.
I mean, he was offsides. Listen, if you're gonna complain about that call, then stop. Then fair is at 11 play because we got robbed in the Super Bowl over an egregious call. Kadarius Toney was offsides, and again, usually the referee, the receiver can ask the referee, "Am I good?" The referee can tell you yes and still throw the flag. They are not required to let you know if you're onside or not. They expect that you know how to line up offsides. And at the end of the day, Kansas City put themselves in that situation because they were behind for 4 quarters against Buffalo. They did not play well. They had themselves to blame. That was out of character for Patrick Mahomes. And I think it's in character for this season because of how frustrating it's been that they cannot get any explosive plays down the field.
I like that. I agree with you somewhat. I agree because I feel like everybody would complain about that call, but I feel like he had no right to. Obviously, he was offsides. But my next question is an all-time question. This isn't current NFL. No, I don't know if I'm allowed to go in that range.
You're allowed to go anywhere you want as it relates to the NFL.
Okay. The Mount Rushmore of quarterbacks goes like this: Brady at 1, Favre at 2, Patrick Mahomes is up there, and the last one you're gonna yell at me. You're gonna yell at me. What did I text you the other day? Who did I say? Brady. Breeze is up there.
I'm going to say foul, and actually it's because I would take Brett Favre off the list. I think Peyton Manning was a better quarterback than Brett Favre.
I can see that. I can see that argument.
Favre only won 1 Super Bowl. Manning won 2. Now, granted, it was at the end of his career. It was based off defense. But Favre did a lot of things. I mean, Favre was not a great player week in and week out like Manning was. I mean, Manning for one interception during his career. But once he got the 1 Super Bowl, he was cerebral and really the only person that could beat Tom Brady. I think it's obviously Brady. I think Peyton Manning. I think Patrick Mahomes. And, Drew Brees put up a lot of passing yards. To me, the other guy that you could get in that conversation is Joe Montana. I would have it go Brady, Montana, Manning, Mahomes, in whatever order.
You know a quarterback, especially me, Brandon. Quarterbacks earned my respect when I put him up there and he's still in the game. So, and I've 15, 14-year-old me would have been bashing Pat Mahomes like crazy. You know this. That man is magical. He has done some crazy things, so I put him up there. But my next one.
I'm going to make a crazy prediction right now, though. I'll say this.
Oh, boy.
Within the next decade, alongside Mahomes, I think Joe Burrow is going to be up there. That's how good I think Burrow is.
Whoa. I like that because I like Burrow. I've always liked Burrow. My next question pertains to the Jets, Jets. Oh, let's talk about it. If Rodgers comes back,
okay,
and plays out the rest of the season, what are they now? Like 8-4? I said they'll have, or what are they now?
They've won like 5 games. I think they're 5-8.
So they'll have a winning record, but I don't even know.
Oh no, that's foul.
That's foul?
That's foul. That's completely foul. First of all, they're going to lose to Miami this week, so that will put them at 8-9. So they will not have a winning record. And even if Aaron Rodgers does come back, the Jets don't have an offensive line. He should not come back this year. I thought your question was more going to be about next year.
Oh, just wait. I got something for next year. Don't you
Okay.
worry. That's up there.
So far, I haven't kept track, but I know it's a lot more foul than fair.
You are in a Grinch mood.
I am not in a Grinch mood. I am a truth-telling mood today about there's a lot of bad NFL teams out there.
Let's talk about my other team, the Lions.
Lions. Okay, this is where the Grinch might come out of me because I'm not in love with your Lions right now.
My Siri just went off talking about the Lions. She knows what's going on. She knows what's good. She knows about the Lions. But Aiden Hutchinson next year will win Defensive Player of the Year.
Well, that's hard to say for sure. He's going to win it. I'll say foul to that.
Would you say he'd be in the running?
I think he could be in the running. Yeah, alongside Myles Garrett and TJ Watt, who are, of course, always in the running. But the problem is the Lions need to get somebody opposite of Aiden Hutchinson that can help him so he's not getting double teamed on every single snap.
Oh, God, I love that man so much. I love Aiden.
Very good player, easily the best player on the Lions defense, but he's not getting a lot of help over the last month.
I agree. It aggravates me. But we're going to talk about January Joe. We're going to talk about my boy, Joe Flacco.
I cannot believe what he's doing.
You know what he's doing, Brandon? He's the guy. He's the man, the myth, the Cleveland Browns legend and Ravens fans. I can't even say it on the air, but you know what I'm thinking.
You can all go bleep yourself is what Jay was saying.
Yeah, that is what I'm saying. Or the famous DX 2 words. Finally, he's on our side. Hit him with the crowd. That's beautiful. But Joe Flacco will at least get one playoff win as a Cleveland Brown.
Ooh, okay. So let me think about this logically. The Browns, I believe, will finish as the number 5 seed in the AFC, which means they will go up against the AFC South opponent, which will more than likely be the Jacksonville Jaguars. At least we think that's the way it will fall right now. I think it really depends on who they play. I don't think they can go down to Miami and win. I don't think they can go down to Buffalo and win. I don't think they can go down to Kansas City and win. The one place I think that they can go down and win is Jacksonville. I don't think the Jags defense is very good. I think the Browns can run the football. I am going to be a little bit of a Grinch here, though. I think it's foul. At the end of the day, if that's the matchup, I think Trevor Lawrence, who will be healthier by that point, it will be in Jacksonville. Very hard to go down there late in the season and win. I think Flacco's a great story, and I think it ends the first wild card weekend.
Speaking of the Browns, you saw Johnny Organo smash the guitar? You saw that?
I saw that. And I also saw yes, and I also saw him live the next night on Monday Night Raw.
I love Johnny. But that's besides the point. Let's talk about your favorite position in basketball, aka the big man. Let's talk about tight end. Let's talk about the big man. Travis Kelce will go down as a top 2 tight end of all time.
I'll do you one better. He goes down as the GOAT tight end.
Over Gronk?
Over Gronk. I think he's going to have more yards, and I think he's going to have more championships.
I you know what? I can't fight you there. I love Trav and I love Gronk. I love both of them, and I really hate
Kelce also has more big playability. Gronk had some big playability, but he wasn't used this constantly in the offense. And he also now is more popular because of his girlfriend. Whether that influences or not, I have no idea.
That was crazy. But yeah, Gronk's biggest play of his career is tripping in Miami.
Yeah.
Gronk didn't have the angle. Remember that was the commercial for the longest time?
Yep. That was the sports betting commercial.
Yeah. My next one is talking about a running back. One of
Ooh.
my favorites in the game, possibly my favorite. It's Nick Chubb. All right, we got to talk about Nick. He'll come back and average the same number of yards as he did before he got hurt.
Okay, so Jalen, I just had a conversation with a good buddy of mine, and we were talking about how at the end of last year, and I told you this before too, if I was the Browns, I would have traded away Nick Chubb. I thought his value wouldn't have been all time high, and I thought if you have Deshaun Watson, you're not going to use the running back position as much anyway. I think Chubb is a superhuman beast, obviously. Um, I don't think I would say foul. I don't think he's going to have the same production because I think the offense will flip eventually into a more passing based offense led by Deshaun Watson.
That leads me, you led me perfectly into my next question. The Browns should not give up on Watson just yet. Give him one more shot.
Ooh, you know what? You have to. It's a fair, but I will say this. If there's a team out there in the middle of the first round that doesn't like one of these young quarterbacks, and you can trade Deshaun Watson to somewhere, I don't know who. You, Atlanta, uh, for example, Atlanta or a New Orleans would want to take on Watson's contract, and you can get a first round pick for it and go draft a young kid. I think at that point I would move on because I don't think Deshaun Watson and Kevin Stefanski's scheme necessarily fits now that we've seen it for 2 years. Watson's also been injury prone. I don't think he's been as good as advertised week in and week out, but I think you absolutely have to give him one more year unless you find an easy out.
You know what? Can I give you my take real quick? I know this is your segment.
No, go ahead.
So I was talking with a good teacher of mine. He's one of my favorites, and he said, "You know where Watson should try to go is Carolina." And I said, "You know what? That's not bad. That's not bad because
They're not moving off Bryce Young.
Bryce Young is awful."
No, he's not. Okay.
Listen.
Let me defend Bryce Young real quick. Do you know Bryce Young has better stats this year than what Trevor Lawrence had in his rookie year?
Yeah.
He has more touchdowns, less interceptions, the same completion percentage. Bryce Young is going to be a decent quarterback if they get talent around him, if they get a better offensive line. Nobody would have a chance to succeed in that Carolina offense right now.
You know what? Brandon? You really are in a Grinch mood, okay? How are you gonna give Bryce Young his flowers?
I always liked Bryce Young coming out of college. I thought he made some really big throws in really big games. I thought he played well in the best moments. I really like what I see.
You know what? I'm just gonna agree with you because this isn't a Brandon's world argue. This is me being fair or foul. So I'll leave it there. Maybe we'll debate come Super Bowl time. All right. My next question is about the other Manning. Okay, not Peyton, not Eli,
Arch.
but Arch. Okay, now I know you said NFL based, but I really want to get your take on this. I know you're not a college guy, but I want your take. And if you don't have one, that's fine. But Arch Manning will end up playing for the world famous Buckeyes and not staying in Texas.
Foul. Arch Manning's going to be a Texas Longhorn.
You know what, buddy? You just want to see my downfall, don't you?
I just the way I see it, you're asking Homer questions, and I'm not an Ohio State fan, and I think Arch Manning at Texas works. And I think Texas, by the way, is prepared if Quinn Ewers goes to the draft for him to start next year.
Buddy, you just want to see my downfall. I know how it is, Brandon. I see you.
No, I want to see Ryan Day have success next year in the 12-team playoff. Maybe get to the semifinals and lose to Michigan again. But that's something.
All right. Easy there. I can talk so much smack about your Eagles right now.
Oh, really is. I don't know. They just have only won 27 out of their last 31 games. I don't know.
Most overrated quarterback in the league right now.
Yeah, sure.
But okay. Easy there. But back to the matter at hand. More fair or foul. Now, is this question fair or foul? You ready for this one? You're not going to. The Steelers should move on from Kenny Pickett ASAP.
Oh, fair. 100% fair. Now, they're not going to do it, but they absolutely should. Kenny Pickett has only had 6 touchdown passes this season. He's not the answer. Pittsburgh is a defensive culture with a defensive coach. It's not great, but they're going to continue to win their 8-9 games a year and be the Steelers forever.
You know what? I agree, but I'm going to say famous words that was once said by a wrestler. And for my next one is about the Steelers again. It wasn't my fault. It wasn't Matt Canada's fault. Fair or foul, Brandon? What is your take?
Well, it's kind of both. And the reason why I say that is because Matt Canada is not all to blame, but he's also some of the blame because his play calls were terrible too. But they also don't have a great personnel. So, can we do a fair / foul there? Because it really is sort of half on Canada, half on Pickett.
Cutthroat, Brandon. One answer, buddy. Come on.
You said it wasn't his fault.
It was
if I had
not
to choose one or the other, it's fair.
I agree. I agree again, Brandon. We're agreeing a lot here. But let's talk about Brock Purdy. That's my.
Purdy.
Ha. You hate Brock Purdy too, don't you?
I can't stand Brock Purdy.
Brock Purdy.
Brock Purdy.
Brock Purdy is the greatest last pick in the draft of all time. Okay?
I mean, it's an easy fair. I hate to admit it. As much as I don't want Brock Purdy, as much as I don't want the Niners, it's an easy fair. I can't think of another one.
You know what? I just wanted you to say that. That wasn't my question at Brock Purdy, but I just threw that out there just so
I thought your question was going to be, is Brock Purdy going to be the NFL MVP?
Yeah, that was my question. Yeah.
So I think he's going to finish second in the voting. I'm going to say foul, and I'm going to give you, and you'll hear this, by the way, when I do my NFL awards for the Christmas special that will be before this segment. I'm going to give you who I believe will be the MVP of the season. I'm going to give you the reason why, but you want to go and take a guess on who I think, and I'll give you in. It's not a Philadelphia Eagle.
Okay. Hold on. Okay, so I saw Purdy is up there. They're saying Dak is up there, but I'm gonna say you put Mahomes up there.
No, he's not even in my top 5.
Is Dak up there?
Dak is up there. He's not my winner. Tyreek Hill is up there. He's not my winner.
Tyreek's up there?
Tyreek is up there.
Is he wait. Is he a quarterback?
The person I have winning it is a quarterback. Yes.
AFC, NFC?
AFC.
AFC. I don't know. I don't even have a guess here.
Lamar Jackson.
Oh, I forgot about Lamar.
I think the Ravens are going to finish with the best record in the AFC. I think that Lamar is going to beat Purdy head-to-head on Christmas night in San Francisco. That will probably be for the MVP award. At the end of the day, Lamar doesn't have the crazy stats he had in 2019 that won him the award. But I go back to San Francisco was very good with Garoppolo, though they weren't as this good, obviously, with Purdy. Dallas, I think Dak has a very good chance, but I think they're going to lose to Buffalo, and I think that they're going to lose to Miami. So that kind of knocks him out of it. Tyreek Hill, I think, has a good, compelling case. The problem is I don't think he's going to get to the 2,000 historic mark, which then leads to Lamar Jackson, who just accounts for so much of the Ravens offense. He's such a special talent. They're going to have the number 1 seed in arguably the harder conference in the AFC, which is why I think Lamar, with a big game against San Francisco on Christmas night, will win him the MVP.
Yeah. I don't know about that. I don't think it's gonna be Purdy, but Brock Purdy, your favorite player in the NFL.
Problem I have with Purdy is nobody thinks he's the best player on his own team. So how can he be the MVP? Now
I'm not. Listen.
I've argued he is
I
the best player. By the way, if you've heard my conversations with Josh Unger over at Championship Rings, you would
I
know
have.
this.
I have, and I think McCaffrey is the best player on that team.
So again,
But
if McCaffrey's the best player, how can Brock Purdy be the MVP? That's my problem.
because he's playing extremely well. Mr. Irrelevant is playing extremely well. Okay, it's not an argument, Brandon. I love Brock Purdy.
He's playing well. My issue with Purdy is I think he's very good. I think he went from being so overhyped by the media to I still believe if you get pressure in his face and if you get him off his first read, he's not the same quarterback. I think he's an above average top 13-ish quarterback in the league. I don't think he's top 5. I don't think he's that. I just hate the way the media large over him like he's the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Did you see Stephen A. Smith talking about Brock Purdy the other day?
I did not know.
Oh my god. Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy in the number 1 spot. I was laughing because somebody
I do think, by the way, if Tyreek Hill gets to over 2,000 yards, if he has a big game year over the last month of this season, he has a chance to win MVP.
Now, that's pertaining kind of to my next question. Is about the Dolphins.
Okay.
The Dolphins. Okay, easy there. We had a Dolphins fan in the house. My father is a diehard Dolphins fan.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, he is. He's definitely going to hear this one. He's not going to be too happy about this. But I think this, you're going to say fair, kind of easy here, but the Dolphins need to move on from Tua Tagovailoa and look for a new quarterback.
No, I say foul.
Wow.
I think Tua is the perfect quarterback for Mike McDaniel's system. As long, Jalen, what have I argued for the last 2 years? Tua Tagovailoa has gone from a literal bust to Brian Flores to being an MVP candidate last year and even at some points this year when healthy with Mike McDaniel as his head coach. I think Tua really fits their scheme. I think they've done a good job of blocking and making sure he stays healthy. I would have reservations on giving him, a 5-year, $250 million contract. Maybe give him a 3-year, $150 million contract. But I would pay Tua some sort of cash.
I don't disagree with that, Brad. I think I don't disagree. I love Tua. I'm left-handed, so there's something about our left-handed guys. We got to stick together here. But my next question is about the game, the moment, the Super Bowl.
Okay.
We're going to get a rematch between your Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs.
You know what? Before the season, you know who I had in the Super Bowl? Do you remember?
Do I remember? I don't remember, actually.
Okay. In the NFC, I did have my Philadelphia Eagles.
That's right. I know you had the Eagles.
In the AFC, do you remember who I picked?
Did you pick Denver?
No. I picked a team that's been there recently.
Been there recently, huh? How recent?
Well, if I say, all right, I'm not going to completely spoil it. So I'll say in the last 5 seasons.
The last 5 years? I don't even remember. Cincinnati?
Cincinnati, yep, that's who I had. I had Cincinnati against Philly, the last 2 Super Bowl losers competing in this year's Super Bowl. I do think that the Philadelphia, I already told you, I think Baltimore is going to beat San Francisco. I think we are going to win out. I think my Eagles are going to get the number 1 seed. I think my Eagles are getting back to the Super Bowl. For the Kansas City side, the AFC is really interesting because there's a team right now that's not even in the playoffs that I actually think could make the Super Bowl, as wild as that sounds. The Buffalo Bills are a very, very, very dangerous football team right now. The way they've been playing offense, the way they've been playing defense, rallying behind Sean McDermott. As much as I don't love Sean McDermott, Kansas City to me has almost a fatal flaw, which is they cannot get big plays down the field. I worry about that a lot with them. Baltimore, I worry about health. Miami, I don't think can beat good teams. Jacksonville, I don't think has a great defense. I think it really comes down to Baltimore, Kansas City. At this point, I'm in the season. I'm actually going to go ahead and say fair because I think Patrick Mahomes will make one more play than the MVP, who I believe will win it, Lamar Jackson. And I think we get Chiefs Eagles rematch, Super Bowl 58 in Las Vegas. Though it's a difficult prediction to be more on the AFC side than the NFC side because I do think Philly's issues are just turnover related. And I think if they play the Cowboys again and or if they play San Francisco again, they can cut the turnovers down. They're going to run the football more, and they can come away with those victories.
See, my next question is kind of a meme question. I've been seeing it a lot. But we will get a Joe Flacco in a Cleveland Browns uniform competing in the AFC Championship against Baltimore. How do you feel about this?
Well, I mean, obviously it has to be foul. I gave the earlier answer to foul. The Flacco would not win a playoff game, so this is foul. It'd be wild if it happens. I actually think it'd be more likely to happen in the divisional round than the AFC Championship, just based off the bracket and the standings.
Right, but tell me that would not be fun.
It would be fun, though. I think the Browns would probably end up losing and probably getting killed because they cannot handle Lamar Jackson very well.
You know what? You don't have to remind me, okay? I'm sat there, watch DJ.
Listen, I am very objective about the Browns. I just think Kevin Stefanski's going to win Coach of the Year.
You are very objective, but okay. Let's talk more awards because I have no guys. I have not seen.
He has not seen it. He's not going to see it till it goes live the same day this goes live.
Right, just because I'm friends with Brandon, I don't get to see any clips, any spoilers, so I don't know where he put this award. But let's talk Defense Player of the Year here. Myles Garrett will come in first and finally take home the Defensive Player of the Year.
He comes in second. The winner will be Deron Bland, defensive back of the Dallas Cowboys. 5 pick sixes, the most in NFL history in 1 year. He's the number 1 ranked corner by PFF. I think that wins him the award. And plus, Myles Garrett has been as effective over the last month than he was earlier in the season. That's why I put Bland over Garrett.
Again, I can't disagree. You got analytics here. I can't fight you here. But this one is about your GOAT, Tom Brady.
Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr., born on August 3rd.
You know what? You know what he did to the Falcons? He came back down 28-3. That is impressive. But anyway, Tom Brady would not have been as good as he was if it wasn't for Bill.
Ooh, great question. And I'm going to say fair. For at least the first half of his career. I think the second part of the dynasty, Brady really carried Bill. But I always said Brady and Bill needed each other because Brady needed to be that buffer for Belichick of being, this cold-blooded, doesn't give a rat's ass about anything, not a very good coach to play for. And Brady was always the fun guy in the locker room that would go, hey, guys, just listen to me, follow me, trust coach, everything's going to be good. And Brady needed Belichick, not just for the defensive side of the ball, but structure and how to stay on task and how to win big games.
It's like that, dude, I swear, Belichick is the Vince McMahon of the NFL.
That's a very good point.
It is. And then Triple H was Tom Brady.
Yes, that is perfect comparison.
Far. I love Vince, man. Vince, I'm gonna start calling him Bill McMahon now.
Well, it's like, Vince and Bill both fell out of touch.
Did you see his press conference? Because that leads to my next question.
We're
Bill
on to
Belichick
Kansas
will be
City.
coaching college football.
No, he's not coaching college football, Jay. What kind of question is this?
Listen, because at the press conference, they were like, would you ever be consider going to coach college or retiring? And then, let me do my best Belichick here. I'm just focused on Kansas City.
I'm just focused on Kansas City.
Yeah. So that is my question. Where does Belichick go? Does he retire? Does he go? Where does it? Does Bill Belichick retire?
I think it's foul. I don't think he retires.
Yeah.
If I had to put money right now on the line, next year, Bill Belichick will be living in sunny Los Angeles, California, coaching Justin Herbert and the Los Angeles Chargers.
I wouldn't hate that. Herb needs some Vince McMahon love. He needs some of that Bill McMahon type love.
Bill McMahon.
Look, it's a new meme now. Bill McMahon. I just haven't heard Belichick scream ever. I've never heard it.
All right, Justin, just go out here and do your job, okay?
Yeah. Whatever. Bill, we're down by 40. I don't care. I'm going home.
We're on to Kansas City.
All right. One of my favorite questions that I actually came up with was about my guy, one of my favorite wide receivers, my favorite wide receiver of all time. Who is it, Brandon?
Randy Moss.
Calvin Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
Calvin Johnson. Calvin Johnson is a top 5 wide receiver in ever.
Ooh, okay. Jerry Rice, obviously.
That's one.
Randy Moss, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I think when it's all said and done, Tyreek Hill will be up there. Who knows? Maybe Justin Jefferson. But I do think Calvin Johnson. Unfortunately, the Lions never used his talent enough. He never won a playoff game. But he is a top 5 wide receiver of all time. And I'd put him in there over Terrell Owens.
Yeah, that is gonna get so many stares, but I love it, Brandon. I love it.
Do you agree?
I do agree. I do. I grew up watching this man. I love this man. He's the reason Double Me exists. You know why there's Double Me in Madden? It's because Calvin Johnson was that guy. You could not put him in single coverage in the red zone. Couldn't do it. It's my love for football stems from this man. You know this. It stems from lives. And I would not put him above anyone you named. Obviously, actually maybe because Tyreek's got a Super Bowl. But everyone you named is very valid. I'm okay with putting him at 5. I agree with your list. Now this one you're gonna be like, where the hell did he come up with this from? Because this is about Josh Gordon.
Oh God.
Okay, so now that weed is a very weed
is legal in the NFL.
It's a very open product. So let's talk about the most famous brown smoker of all time, Josh Gordon. Josh Gordon should have never gotten punished as hard as he did for smoking weed.
It's foul. That was the punishment at the time. He knew the laws. He broke them. The end. If the question is, Josh Gordon didn't get suspended, how good would he be? It's hard to tell because it's a different game from 10 years ago. But in the end, I thought Josh Gordon had a great year with Brian Hoyer and then kind of fell off a cliff.
And Brandon Whedon. He killed it with Whedon.
I forgot he had Brandon Whedon.
Yeah, that's when he really started. But he couldn't stay off the weed.
No, I mean that was the part. That was the policy at the time. It doesn't matter what if you don't like the rules, you got to follow them.
I watched Josh Gordon highlights. I was like, man, what if we had like a 38-year-old Joe Flacco throwing bombs to a 30-year-old Brian Hoyer? That was that would have been so incredible. I would have loved to see it. But
I'm sorry, guys. I'm here. Yeah, I just had to completely clean out my nose for 1 second. I'm battling allergies today, so that's why if I sound terrible, that's why.
It's that time of year, Brandon. It's getting a little cold out, a little nippy. January football's upon us.
Yeah, but we are here at the Christmas special, and I'm ready to roll. So let's get into our next fair or foul.
All right, my next fair or foul is about the Philadelphia Eagles.
You love asking me Eagles questions.
I love giving you Eagles questions because I'm just waiting.
Because you know I'm a homer. Because you know how much that Super Bowl last year killed me, and you know how much I want one again.
Yeah. You were in a dorm room last one. You won.
Yeah, and I was at home this year, and it hurt even more.
Now, let's talk about the boy Michael Vick.
Ooh, okay. So this is not a current Eagles question. I like this.
No, this is because I was watching Mike Vick highlights. Michael Vick will go down as a top 10 Eagles quarterback, not just ever, Eagles quarterback of all time.
I think it has to be fair to that question. I mean, Jalen Hurts, Nick Foles, Carson Wentz, Donovan McNabb,
Whoa.
Cunningham, Michael
Carson Wentz?
He's the one that got us to that number 1 seed.
Super Bowl.
We would have not made the Super Bowl if Carson Wentz did not start those first, whatever it was, 13, 14 games.
Okay, go ahead. Keep going with your list.
That's it. I mean, that's the list of my lifetime I can think of.
Man, I love Michael Vick on the Eagles. I actually want a Michael Vick Eagles jersey.
Michael Vick was so good in 2010 and 2013 with Chip Kelly.
He was. Now this one is a game of the year question here.
Okay.
The game we witnessed by the time it goes up, it would have been 2 weeks ago, a week ago, depending on 3 weeks ago maybe. But the Bills in Kansas City just played game of the year.
I'm gonna go ahead and say foul to that. I did not do this as part of my awards. I kind of forgot about it. There were so many great games this year. Off the top of my head, and again, it may be a little recency bias. That Buffalo Philly game, the week prior to the Buffalo Kansas City game, may have been the game of the year. Philly Dallas, the game in Philly was also a very good game. I don't know. Help me out here. I don't remember.
Browns and San Fran. That was a good one.
That was a good one. I don't remember a great Sunday night game. I don't remember out of this world Thursday night game.
Thursday night games have sucked.
I don't remember. Monday night games. The Jets Bills game is obviously infamous for the Rodgers injury, but there's not a primetime game. Is there one that really stands out to you?
Oh man, no, maybe.
There's been some really good ones in the 4 o'clock window. I'll say
maybe
that.
When the Packers knocked off the Chiefs a couple weeks ago.
But we were all amazed by Jordan Love. I wouldn't call that the game of the year.
I would go Buffalo and KC
over Buffalo Philly.
Or yeah.
I'll give you one. Seahawks Lions week 2. We kind of all forgot about it.
I don't know how I forgot about that game. We won that game, didn't we?
No, you didn't. You lost.
That's right. Because. Oh yeah. Okay, I got to think back to week 2 now. Yeah.
Because Ravens this past week at the time of this recording was a really good game.
Ravens was sweet. That was fun. That was fun to watch. But there's a ton of good games this year. A lot of good football going on this year. Not a lot of filler games
There's some bad football, and then there's some really good football.
Bad football. Steelers, Patriots, Thursday Night Football, anyone?
Hey, you know what? At least that was watchable. You want to talk about a bad game? Raiders Vikings.
Oh, I watched that game because I texted.
I watched it too. That was something.
Oh, that might be worst game of the year.
I think by definition. Well, I don't know. Jets Giants was awful.
Oh,
Chargers Patriots was awful. Cowboys Giants awful.
But the Raiders Vikings that was a good awful game. Like it was intriguing because it was the fourth quarter and it was 0-0.
I know. I said the same thing. I couldn't keep my eyes off it because it was so bad.
Right.
I'll give you a sneaky good one real quick that I just remembered. Monday Night Football, Niners, Vikings.
I forgot about that one. Yeah,
the game Kirk Cousins played well in primetime.
Primetime Kirk. I got scolded for that because I told my teacher at school, take the 49ers.
Yeah, I bet San Francisco that week too.
Yeah, because primetime Kirk doesn't show up. Well, guess what? He showed up. Anyways, my next question is, it's probably about one of my favorite positions. It's about the wide receiver position.
Okay.
Right. And that I love the wide receivers. It's about the Browns.
We'll go about 10 more minutes, by the way. So I don't know how many questions you have left.
I have like 3 good ones off the top of my head. I have 3 good ones left. But let's talk about the wide receiver. Let's talk about Amari Cooper. The Browns need to get rid of Amari Cooper and look for someone else.
I'm going to say foul to that because they don't need to get rid of Amari Cooper, but they need to add somebody else and make Amari Cooper their number 2. I don't know how you do that. I don't know how many assets you can trade away, but Amari Cooper would be a great number 2 receiver. He's not a number 1.
Okay, we're going to talk about Dallas now, your favorite team. I know you're diehard Dallas fan, aren't you?
You know what? I've given the Cowboys a ton of credit. If you listened to the podcast this year, I've been very pro Dallas.
You have. It's actually kind of, I don't like it. Like, I wish you would chew them out. But anyways, there is a chance that in 2020, this Super Bowl coming up 2024, my graduation year, that the Dallas Cowboys will walk out Super Bowl champs.
Shaylin, it will kill me inside. I won't want to watch it, but I have to say fair to it. What did I tell you going into the year? The top 3 teams in the NFC: Philly, San Francisco, and Dallas. And outside of knowing what Brock Purdy was going to do, I really thought Philly and Dallas were the 2 best teams in the conference. Dallas has a good offensive line, a great defensive line, great receivers, very good quarterback playing at an MVP type level, best year he's had of his career, and a very good running back in power. They have the Super Bowl formula. They even have a Super Bowl coach in Mike McCarthy, though I don't trust him, though he's having the best year of his coaching career like the last decade. The only question is going to be, can they go on the road? Can they beat San Francisco on the road or Philly on the road? Because I think they can beat either one of them at home.
I agree. Again, I agree.
As much as it pains me to say it, I still think, by the way, because there is a chance, we all talk how great San Francisco is. Like I keep telling you, Brock Purdy only needs to fuck up once, and they're gone. I still think a Philly-Dallas NFC Championship game in Philly is possible.
I don't hate that. I don't hate that.
By the way, that was my prediction. If you remember before the year, that was my prediction. NFC Championship was Dallas at Philly in Philly. Philly would have won the game in Philly. Dallas would have beat them in Dallas, which is what happened. And I said Philly would beat them in Philly again.
I agree. But we're going to talk about Let's Ride, Broncos Country.
I mean, Sean Payton. I mean, you want to talk about Coach of the Year. He's certainly up there.
That was the question. Will Sean Payton win Coach of the Year?
Well, they're contradictory questions because you asked me, will Kevin Stefanski?
Well, no, I'm saying, okay, but do you think he comes in second then? Is Stefanski?
So In my NFL awards, I'll just say fair, and this is how I'll say it. I think there are 4 NFL Coach of the Year award candidates, and I know one of them you disagree with me is Stefanski. The other 3, one of them is certainly Sean Payton because of the job he's done with not only Russell Wilson, but turning around that defense. They gave up 70 points to the Dolphins. The other 2, one of them I have is D'Amico Ryans of the Houston Texans. I thought Houston was going to have 6 or 7 wins this year. I did not think that, before Tank Dell went down, that CJ Stroud, Tank Dell, and Will Anderson would be essentially the free catalyst leading their team. The other one I have, who would have thought when Anthony Richardson went down very early in the season that the Indianapolis coach and Shane Steichen with Gardner Minshew would be in the contention for the playoffs? Not me. So I think it's Cleveland, Indy, Denver, Houston. 4 AFC teams that have all exceeded expectations. There's a lot of talk out there. It could be Kyle Shanahan of San Francisco. And my argument this year against Shanahan is we all thought San Francisco was going to be really good and win the NFC West. We maybe did not think they'd be as dominant as they are, but we all had them winning 12 or 13 games this year. So it's really hard to give them Coach of the Year from that aspect.
I like how you're breaking this down, so I can't disagree with you. Usually you throw some flaws in there to where I can disagree, but I just can't today. I can't. But this one is about my Ohio State boy, CJ Stroud.
I've been critical of CJ Stroud.
You have. But he will win the MVP in the next 2 years.
Wow. I think just because of the competition, he's going to be in a competition every year with Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, more than likely probably Brock Purdy, more than likely probably Dak Prescott from here on out. Maybe
he's better than Purdy. He's better than Brock Purdy.
He's better than Purdy, but his team will not be, and that's the problem.
Fair. So you're going foul here, huh? This is you're really wound me up, Brandon. You're lucky this isn't a regular Brandon's World episode. I'm fired up right now, buddy. But this one is about the Packers.
2 more.
All right, this one's about the Packers. Now, I know you've been very critical of the man Jordan Love.
I have, but then I gave his flowers 2 weeks ago. Then what does he do? He loses to the damn Giants.
Good Italian, right? Tommy Cutlets, you know what I'm saying? That's my guy right there. Anyways, Packers. Let's talk about them.
Okay.
Packers need to find a new head coach and give Jordan Love at least 2 more years to develop.
See, that's foul. I like Matt LaFleur. I think he's on the right side of the ball. I think that Jordan Love has gotten better. And I think with any young quarterback, we've seen it all over the league this year. You're going to have ups, you're going to have downs. Packers do not, on the contrary to what a lot of people think. A lot of people like Christian Watson. A lot of people like Romeo Dobbs. I don't. I think they're just guys. I think giving away Devontae Adams, even though he wasn't sure on Aaron Rodgers' future, I get it. I thought it was a mistake. I think Green Bay needs to find a way to get a number 1 wide receiver. Maybe they go get Devontae Adams back. Maybe you go get Corwin Sutton. I think you give Jordan Love another weapon. I think you give him another year in this with another offensive coach. Maybe you move off A.J. Dillon. You just keep Aaron Jones or one of the running backs. Use it on their offensive line. Like, I think Green Bay in a weak NFC could make the playoffs next year and even this year if Jordan Love can make a jump the last half of the year.
Again, Jordan Love has been playing very great, but he did lose to the Giants. I did not see Brandon's best bets. Did you put money on the Packers?
When against the Giants? No, I did not.
Okay, I was going to say you better not have. Okay, but the last one to wrap it up for the 2023-24 Christmas special. Let's get juicy, Brandon. Are you ready?
All right, let's do it.
Are you sure?
Because I don't know by that sound of it.
I want to know your Okay, so I've talked about this for a while. You know how I feel about Jalen Hurts, and you know how I feel about the tush push. But Jalen Hurts will win back-to-back MVPs once in his NFL career. Like he'll go back-to-back at least one time.
Foul. It's hard.
Mm.
It's really hard to do that. I don't know who the last person to do it was. Was it Peyton Manning? No,
Hey man.
it was Aaron. Remember the back to back?
Oh yeah, didn't he win the Super Bowl that year? When he went
No,
back?
it was the year. So it was the COVID year when they went to Tampa, and then the year after when they blew that lead against San Francisco.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot he won back-to-back those
Yep.
years.
So Aaron won back to back. It's going to be really hard. I thought Jalen should have won it last year over Patrick Mahomes. By the way, I'm not just saying that as an equals over. I thought he was more valuable to the team, as we saw when Gardner Minshew had to come in there. But I think it's really hard to win back to back MVPs. I don't think Jalen Hurts is going to do it. Also because he's had, knock on wood, some durability issues. But I think Jalen Hurts will win an MVP at this point in his career, just not back to back.
All right, buddy. Is that it? Are we done?
I think we're gonna wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for listening to this edition of Fair or Foul. Thanks, Jalen, for coming on. We're gonna do more of these in the near future. Coming up next on the Brandon's World Christmas Special, I will be giving out my WWE Slammy Awards for
Yes.
2023. That is coming up next.
I'm right before the Slammy.
And now it is time for the 2023 WWE Slammy Awards. This year in WWE was arguably one of the hottest the company has had in history. So many OMG moments, so many storylines, so many returns, so many great matches. It was so hard to put this all together. Well, let's not waste any time. Without further ado, our participants for Male Superstar of the Year. Now, this was obviously such a hard choice because currently, right now in WWE, there are so many baby faces on the roster. Jey Uso, Sami Zayn, Seth Rollins, L.A. Knight. So many great heels that broke out this year. Dominic Mysterio, Damian Priest. But ladies and gentlemen, you all know these Slammy Awards would not be legitimate. And I know he's only wrestled 3 matches this year, but he is the sun that revolves around the WWE, the tribal chief, the head of the table, the undisputed WWE Universal Champion, Roman Reigns. Without Roman Reigns, there is no bloodline. Without Roman Reigns, there is no World Championship. Without Roman Reigns, there is no development of Sami Zayn and Jey Uso and Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa to the superstars they are today. Roman Reigns has a bigger impact on WWE, even when he's not around, than anybody else on the roster. Roman Reigns, for over 1,200 days, has been the undisputed Universal Champion. And I believe that's why he gets the nod for Male Superstar of the Year. Now, Female Superstar of the Year. There was not a ton of candidates, at least a little bit less than the men, but my candidates are Io Sky, Bayley, and the winner, without a doubt again, Rhea Ripley. No matter on Raw, no matter on SmackDown, Mommy, the women's world champion, ever since WrestleMania, has dominated the women's division. Now, Bayley and Io Sky, with their storyline on SmackDown, Bayley becoming essentially more involved with the injury to Dakota Kai. Of course, the Io Sky winning Money in the Bank, cashing it in, having her reign as the women's champion. You can make an argument for those two. But Rhea Ripley has certainly rose to not only be a star among the women's division this year, but to be a star in all of WWE and in a group where Dominic Mysterio gets massive heat, Damian Priest gets booed, JD McDonough gets booed. Finn Balor gets booed. I'm telling you right now, after being on Monday Night Raw live a couple weeks ago, it's all cheers for Rhea Ripley, who is absolutely turning into a global star. Now, match of the year. I'll be honest with you, any one of these matches you could pick for a legitimate winner. My top match that I have in mind, which in my opinion was a 5-star match, was the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania 39 this past April night 2. Gunther, Drew McIntyre, Sheamus. The triple threat match was an absolute banger from top to bottom, and it will be a common theme throughout this list, this massive list. I don't remember ever having this massive of a list for match of the year in WWE, and Gunther is certainly a big part of it. Also, Seth Rollins, Austin Theory, Bronson Reed, Montez Ford, Johnny Gargano, Bobby Lashley. The men's elimination chamber this past February for the United States Championship, which of course involved Logan Paul costing Seth Rollins the match, Austin Theory retaining. I thought Bronson Reed, Montez Ford, Johnny Gargano, Seth Rollins, Bobby Lashley, and Theory tore the house down. And really for Gargano, Reed, and Ford, 3 young superstars with 3 breakout moments. All 3 of them had tremendous success in that match. Obviously, Rhea Ripley, Charlotte Flair, night 1 of WrestleMania, outside of Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus the Bloodline, which is also on this list. I thought those 2 matches were the best 2 matches of night 1. Both War Games matches were absolutely terrific. They tore the house down. They were 2 of the best War Games matches I've ever seen. So, in my opinion, you have to put the men's and women's War Games matches on that list. The men's Money in the Bank ladder match, which had an absolutely unbelievable crowd there in London, was on fire. Obviously, everybody went LA Knight to win the entire briefcase. That was fantastic. How about the Bloodline versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn at Night of Champions when Jimmy Uso turned on Roman Reigns? That pop in Saudi was electric. The build up to the match, and Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn finally getting their revenge on the Bloodline. What about Roman Reigns versus Sami Zayn at Elimination Chamber with that crowd in Montreal chanting, "Fuck you, Roman"? Incredible. What about the match on Labor Day between Gunther and Chad Gable on Raw? Pretty much almost a 5-star instant classic. How about Gunther and The Miz at Survivor Series? A very underrated match. The nice show there with The Miz delivering the low blow to Gunther, the skull-crushing finale. We all thought Miz could have become the Intercontinental Champion, but it was not meant to be. What about Backlash? Bad Bunny, Damian Priest, the Puerto Rico street fight. What a freaking match that was. How about Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn against the Judgment Day at Payback in Pittsburgh in the Steel City street fight, where Kevin Owens, of course, jumped up from the apron and took out Dominic Mysterio. And then, of course, you've got Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes, night 2 of WrestleMania. We all know how it went down. Many fans aren't happy. I'm happy the Tribal Chief was able to retain his championship. But again, just a long, lengthy list of matches for the year in WWE. Pretty much any match that involved Roman Reigns or Gunther, you could put on the top of that list. Just so many incredible moments, so many incredible crowds. How about oh my God moments? Obviously, the CM Punk return is obviously number 1, but right behind it are the 2 turns on the Bloodline with Sami Zayn and Jey Uso. Of course, Sami Zayn at the Royal Rumble, that nuclear pop, and the reaction, the surprise when Jey Uso said, "I'm out too," and boom, the super kick to the head of the table, the Tribal Chief Roman Reigns. How about that SmackDown in Colorado where The Rock and Pat McAfee made a surprise return on SmackDown and took out Austin Theory? and then John Cena showing up as a legitimate surprise at Money in the Bank in London. Again, another nuclear pop. So many oh my god moments this year, and of course, you can include the returns of Randy Orton, the recent return of AJ Styles. WWE was completely on fire this year. Now, for breakout superstar, obviously, main event Jey Uso, Damian Priest, and Dominic Mysterio of the Judgment Day. Still getting nuclear heat. Damian Priest as well, developing his character as well as his wrestling. How about the Creed brothers? I think they've shown up on Raw and made an instant impact, and I think that they could be up there as a breakout tag team in 2024 altogether. I love their wrestling style. They're already with Cody Rhodes and connecting on the main roster. But without a doubt, ladies and gentlemen, the most breakout superstar of 2023, the man who at this time last year was getting almost no reaction in a feud with the late, great Ray Wyatt. L.A. Knight. Yeah, because L.A. Knight, yeah, is taking over the globe a lot like the Yes movement took over the globe a decade ago. For best premium live event, oh, this was hard, and this is going to be our last Slammy award, but I got to go with Backlash, Survivor Series, Elimination Chamber, Money in the Bank, Royal Rumble, and WrestleMania 39. I believe all of those are in the to A plus tier. It's very hard to rank them which overall was better because Money in the Bank, that London crowd was just so special. Jey Uso pitting Roman Reigns in the Bloodline Civil War, which you can make an argument as well as another match of the year candidate. The specialness of WrestleMania 39, especially night one with that Charlotte Flair, Rhea Ripley, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn against the Usos. Night two, Edge and Finn Balor inside Hell in a Cell. Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes for the Undisputed Championship. Elimination Chamber in Montreal. Edge and Beth Phoenix defeating Finn Balor and Rhea Ripley. And then you have, of course, Roman Reigns, Sami Zayn, the two Elimination Chamber matches. I thought the men's was a little bit better than the women's. Survivor Series, say no more with the two War Games matches, the returns of CM Punk and Randy Orton. And then obviously Backlash. I already mentioned the San Juan, Puerto Rico street fight. Damian Priest, Bad Bunny. Cody Rhodes also defeated Brock Lesnar on that show where Lesnar bled from head to toe. And Bianca Belair and Io Sky had a very good opening match for what was still at that time the SmackDown woman, or excuse me, it would have been the Raw Women's Championship because Rhea Ripley had the SmackDown Women's Championship, which she defended against Zelina Vega in Zelina's hometown. I'm very excited for WWE in 2024. You take a look at this list of best premium live events: Money in the Bank, Elimination Chamber, Backlash, all, not in the United States. And I'm excited to see how these international crowds in Berlin and down under in Australia, how they live up to the shows this year. Triple H has been on absolute fire this year in WWE. We've got LA Knight, we've gotten CM Punk, we've gotten Jey Uso, we've gotten Sami Zayn, we've gotten Seth Rollins, the World Champion. Randy Orton is back. Gunther is at the top of his game. Rhea Ripley becoming a star. Dominic Mysterio, the massive heel heat. Santos Escobar definitely has a shot to be a breakout star in 2024 as well with his storyline currently with Rey Mysterio. But it all revolves around the son of the head of the table, the tribal chief, the undisputed WWE Universal Champion, Roman Reigns. Let me know if I missed any moments, especially when it came to best POE or breakout or OMG, or if there's a men's superstar of the year or a female superstar of the year that you would have liked to see on my list. Going up next on the Brandon's World Christmas special, I sit down with Michael Reiner. Not only are we going to talk about all of this wrestling stuff, but all things NFL. He's a huge Steelers fan. We dive into the Steelers dilemma with Kenny Pickett. Once again, CM Punk returning. great business for WWE, AEW struggling, and more. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of ages, welcome back into the Brandon's World Christmas special. And here we are with my man for the first time in a while, Michael Reiner. Michael, welcome back to the podcast.
Brandon, Merry Christmas to you, brother. It's awesome to be on your podcast today, talking a little NFL, talking a little WWE. It's my favorite time of the year, honestly, the holiday season, but it's also crunch time in the NFL, and it's almost WrestleMania season in WWE world. It's where the cream rises to the crop. It's where the cream rises to the top, as Randy Savage used to say. Sorry about that, Brandon, but we're here today and we're ready to get it rocking.
So, Mike, you know how we usually always start things off. We got to talk your Pittsburgh Steelers. Now at the time of this recording, you guys are coming off two mercifully bad losses: Arizona at home, New England at home, back-to-back weeks. And I've said this about the Steelers, and you know, sort of my take on it is, I think it's a very good team. I think it's a very good coach. But I think that there's a ceiling there, and I think that there's a ceiling with the current quarterback. Regardless if he's hurt or not. I mean, Kenny Pickett's only thrown 6 touchdown passes this year. There's no juice to the offense, whether it's Matt Canada calling plays or somebody else calling plays. And I really feel like the Pittsburgh Steelers brand that's sort of always been toughness and defense and team identity. It's not necessarily, and we've had this conversation a lot, Mike, on how you win in 2023 football, which is these clever offensive-minded head coaches are winning games with Tommy DeVito and Jake Browning and all these backups. It just feels a little bit outdated to me.
Right, Brandon. I mean, I get a front row seat to all the Steeler games with my family every week, and I gotta say that it's just not the brand of football that wins in today's game. When I watch teams like the Miami Dolphins, the San Francisco 49ers, the Eagles, even the very elite teams in the NFL, they don't run the offense like the Steelers run offense. They have multiple blockers down the field. They have wide receivers actually run routes that get open and use the middle of the field. This is a Steeler team that has a truly broken offense, not just this year, not last year, but over the past 5 years, Brandon. It's been long and miserable. I have to say that it's probably Mike Tomlin's fault in all of this, but at the end of the day, if we end up making the playoffs and sneaking in, the Rooneys will not justify as a reason for Mike Tomlin to lose his job. But I think a change of scenery could work, at least on the offensive side of the ball. I don't know what they're going to do.
What, as a Steelers fan, because every year we talk about this, no matter if you live in Cleveland, no matter if you live in Pittsburgh, no matter where you live, everybody always talks about the Mike Tomlin. He's had a winning season every single year he's been the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Some years it's been, 9-7. Other years been 8-1. It's been, 8-7-1, whatever you want to call it. I think for the Steelers culture and that organization, I think for some reason it matters to the players and it matters to Tomlin, but really it's almost the most non-meaningful stat in sports because the Steelers, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, have not won a playoff game since 2017, I believe. That's not the Steeler brand of football.
Right. It's not the standard, Brandon. At the end of the day, we could play all the games, all 17 games the regular season, but really what matters is what happens when you're in the playoffs. And when you read off the resume of Mike Tomlin since that Super Bowl when they lost to Green Bay in Indianapolis, there were 3 playoff wins. And these are the 3 quarterbacks that they defeated. They defeated Matt Moore and the Miami Dolphins, Alex Smith, pre-Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, and then they beat A.J. McCarron, who was a backup for Andy Dalton. So that just shows you, 3 backup level NFL quarterbacks, all due respect to Alex Smith, but 3 backup quarterbacks you beat in the playoffs. Meanwhile, you're out here losing to quarterbacks like Tim Tebow, Blake Bortles, and Baker Mayfield. So when you look at the Steelers, it's great that they've had such the run that they've been able to have. But at the end of the day, changes need to be made. There's insane talent on this offense. Don't get me wrong, some of these draft picks really haven't panned out, but when you look at the level of pro, at least on the outside of wide receiver, Deontay Johnson, very solid NFL player. George Pickens, I've never seen the hype around anybody like George Pickens. There's nobody with more Steelers jersey in that stadium than George Pickens right now. And it's just, I feel like the Steelers brand of football needs a fresh coat of paint and somebody that can come out there, draw plays, get these guys open. And I think it comes down to quarterback play too. I don't believe Kenny Pickett is the guy, as evident by stats. I don't believe Mitch Trubisky is either. I think they have to get younger quarterback. You got to remember, Kenny Pickett is about 25 as a second-year player in the league. So that's considered an older rookie. And I just think with this opportunity in the draft, if you're in that, that mid-range area and you think, well, we've got everywhere else covered, maybe try to go after a quarterback. Maybe try to go after a quarterback later in the draft. Guys like Jalen Hurts and Dak Prescott were taken later in drafts. Who's to say the Steelers don't find that guy in later rounds? Because, hey, all the quarterbacks are getting hurt now anyways, so you got to have a good backup to survive the season.
No, that's true. And I really think outside of corner, I could make a case Pittsburgh might need one more corner, but outside of that, the biggest, weakness on the roster would be quarterback. And when you're in a division with normally a healthy Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, and then whatever the hell Cleveland is doing with their quarterback situation, it's going to be tough year in and year out. Speaking of Cleveland, so I know you're obviously a Steelers fan, but you are very connected with the Browns. You've been around the city. I know you know a lot of people that are Browns fans. Here in Cleveland, we talk about our head coach, Kevin Stefanski, a lot. Because he's an offensive-minded coach, but oftentimes he can get very conservative with his play calling. And Stefanski drives me nuts because he'll run these jet sweeps at the wrong time of the game, and he'll just run these chaotic, tight end screens, about 8 a game to David Njoku, and only about 2 of them work. But at the end of the day, I was saying this week, you look up at the Browns' resume this year, Deshaun Watson, we played a couple games after week 3, but pretty much in September, that was the last Deshaun Watson you got for the year. PJ Walker's a practice squad-like quarterback. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, practice squad quarterback. Joe Flacco comes off the street from raking leaves and wins you 2 out of 3 games. The Browns, the fact that they are going to potentially make the playoffs with a historic defense and not at all stability at the most important position in sports, there's somewhere to me that's like Stefanski's got to be doing something right.
Yeah, Brandon, I'm thankful for a lot of things in the sports world and just in my life. And I've got to say, even though I'm a Steeler fan, one of those things is the Cleveland Browns. Without a doubt, they're interesting to watch. They're the most fun team to watch in the NFL season. You got to give credit to Kevin Stefanski. And I'm somebody that was on the hater side about a year ago for the same reasons that you mentioned about him drawing up certain plays or trying to get cute, as a lot of my Cleveland friends like to say. But Brandon, listen, he's out there with about 14 different guys that are on season-ending IR. It's probably unprecedented in the history of the NFL. It's time to give this guy his credit as one of the top 10 head coaches in the NFL, maybe even top 5 with the job he's done with this team. Because don't get me wrong, Browns defense, historic, young defense, and Myles Garrett reminds me of Mean Joe Green. But at the end of the day, Stefanski's the guy that makes the call, and he's able to make it work with a guy, Joe Flacco, who's been retired for 6 months, like you said, off the street. He just got done going to the grocery store and walking around his house, hanging around with his family, and now he's back in games, winning them, not just competing in them, winning games and doing enough to win. So look out for this Cleveland team. If they're able to maintain stability, if they land a Kansas City in the first round, maybe a team that's kind of been sleepwalking the past few weeks, but it's kind of still that upper echelon level of talent. Watch out. The Cleveland Browns are not an easy matchup, even for a team like Kansas City.
So you mentioned Kansas City, so let's go there next. I said watching them the last month, it's apparent to me their second best offensive skill position player outside of Kelsey this year is the running back Pacheco. And you would have never thought that from a Kansas City Chiefs team, even when they lost Tyreek Hill. And it's something strange to me this year because really all they did was replace Juju with Rashid Rice. And yet it doesn't matter if Kelsey's in there or not. They cannot give you explosive plays down the field. Everything is nickel and dime you 3 yards, 5 yards, da 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 da. Da. And that will obviously, when you cannot create big plays over the top of an offense, it's going to lead to more mistakes. Defense is going to sit on you. Wide receivers are going to drop more balls. So listen, we're all not sitting here saying Kansas City can't win the Super Bowl because they have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. They're definitely, they're always going to have a chance to be in it. But this is a different Chiefs team. But the funny thing is, their personnel did not change that much year to year.
It did not change much year to year, Brandon. But what did change is the aging of Travis Kelsey. I think that plays a major factor. I think that, he really, he hasn't had one of those monster games yet. One of those true Travis Kelsey monster games, maybe against Chicago early on. But, really, he hasn't had one of those Travis Kelsey like games. My thing with Kansas City is, can you survive long enough to maybe get you to a point where you can thrive at home like you always do with that young defense? Kansas City is a top 5 defense in the NFL. And I think that that's going to be what's going to have to carry them to the promised land if they're going to get it this year, not because of any mistakes they made. I just see different teams getting better all around. Obviously, with the Tyreek Hill injury, that puts a damper on Miami's hopes. If he's not 100%, that was a team that was sort of maybe could compete with Kansas City this year. But you look like a team like Baltimore. Man, they find ways to win. Lamar Jackson's taking less chances with his legs, and he's winning because of it. Do they beat Kansas City in Kansas City? Maybe not, but that's a team that could maybe compete with them for 4 quarters and cause them issues. I just mentioned Cleveland. That's a tough out with the way Joe Flacco's playing. There's no easy first-round matchup for the Kansas City Chiefs, Brandon.
I'll give you a team that I think, because they just did it, I think Buffalo is a very dangerous team, and I don't know yet if they're going to win the division. We know Miami has a tough schedule down the stretch. Buffalo, a very tough game at the time of this recording, going up against Dallas this week. But I said when they made the offensive coordinator change from Ken Dorsey to Joe Brady, you could immediately see Josh Allen was not taking the chances of, hey, every play we got to push this ball 50 yards down the field. They went into Philly at Lincoln Financial Field, and arguably, if it wasn't for a couple of penalties, they could have beat Philly in Philly. They obviously beat the Jets, went into Kansas City, and won that game. They are playing really hot football, and if they continue to get better and that defense starts to get healthy, Buffalo, I think, is a very dangerous team if they get into the tournament.
Their backs against the wall, Brandon. I couldn't agree more. Definitely a dangerous out. Definitely. And also watch out for Denver. They could also be dangerous. They've really turned it on. Really, it depends on who's going to fall out of that upper echelon. There's so many teams at 7-6 right now. Anything could happen.
Yeah, I agree with you. So there's one AFC team that I definitely want to talk to you about because it's one that's not even nowhere in the playoff hunt, but it's a fascinating team. I think you know what I'm talking about. It's the New England Patriots. Listen, we know that the roster is not good. We know they've had the worst skill position players in the league for the last 3 years. We know Belichick is a defensive genius, but when you give up 10 points less per game or whatever it is 3 times and you're 0-3 in those games, that's a serious issue. I just think, and I know New England fans are mad. I know that they don't want to admit it, but as we talked about order with Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh, like I think you just rip the Band-Aid off. I think you say, Bill, it's been a great 20 something plus years. We need to move into a new chapter of the New England Patriots, not only post Brady, but now post Belichick, and get a young, bright, offensive minded coach in there. See if you can draft a quarterback high in the draft. See if you could get, a fourth round pick or whatever for Mac Jones and restart the franchise because you can't be treading in water and having Belichick draft all defensive players when it doesn't matter who the quarterback's going to be, when I feel like they're going to be set up to fail.
I kind of see the same issue that we just talked about in Pittsburgh here in New England. Defensive minded head coach. They're unable to draft offensive players, which I think on the Steelers side, I think they have been able to draft offensive talent. But for New England, it's very sad to see because, for one, he doesn't have the greatness of Tom Brady, and it's just his failures of drafting in a draft room. Just think about the guys that were passed on. Instead, he's out here taking, Tyquan Thornton and guys like that. And guys that, when your tight end is your biggest receiving threat, he's not even really, all that much of a threat. You got issues. And I think issues all across the board from New England. A change of scenery with Bill out of there. Maybe Bill goes somewhere else. Maybe Bill goes to the Chargers. Maybe he goes to Washington. Maybe he can do that. But I don't see any scenario where he stays with the Patriots.
All right, so we're gonna switch conferences. We're gonna go to the NFC. I beat up on your team a little bit. You get a chance now to beat up on my team, the Philadelphia Eagles. Listen, obviously we know the Philadelphia market is tough. There's a lot of uproar with this team. People are saying they're frauds, yada yada. They lost back-to-back games at the time of this recording to San Francisco and Dallas. Obviously, San Francisco gave us a beatdown, and that was tough. I tend to believe the Dallas game was a lot closer than the score indicated. I mean, when you fumble the ball 3 times in Dallas territory and not be able to score, that's going to be tough. The only difference that I see this year, and I think the defense, part of them not being as good the last couple of weeks because they've really been torched by, great quarterback play, whether it be Mahomes, Josh Allen, Dak, Brock Purdy. Offensively, what I see mostly is it's been some of the weirdest years where it's been Jalen's getting, balls tipped up in the air and intercepted, or just bad times with fumbles. I don't think it's a bad play call issue. I don't think it's a personnel issue. I think some of it has just been bad luck and fatigue. And I think the veterans on my team are going to bounce back. And ultimately, I think Philadelphia will still be in a good spot to make some noise in the postseason.
I think that they'll be in a good spot too, Brandon. I think they sit as one of the top 3 teams in the NFL right now. I think when you look at the 3 top teams, they all lie in the NFC. They're San Francisco, Philadelphia, and Dallas. But here's the deal, Brandon. Here's something to think about. These 2 games against San Francisco and Philadelphia back-to-back weeks. I know they're against the 2 toughest teams in the league, but you got to remember when the Eagles played them last season, what they had to deal with those 2 teams. Last year, there were injuries with San Francisco, and then that year in the regular season, they also didn't have to deal with Dak, I believe, at least for the first month of the year, right? So there were a couple of those injuries there that really played a part in why the Eagles might have finished the way that they did. They didn't really. This was the year where they got an easier schedule last year than they do this year, and when I look at Philadelphia, it might just be a situation where that line might be getting a little bit older, maybe not the level of, well, we don't view this as a Super Bowl team. But keep in mind, San Francisco, Dallas, they both got better. And clearly they have just as good a quarterback play as Jalen Hurts right now with Dak and Brock Purdy, based on statistics. And at the end of the day, we'll just have to see how it goes. I don't remember seeing 3 almost dead even teams. And when I look at these 3 teams, they all 3 look like they can win the whole thing.
I agree with you, and I think home field advantage is going to have to do a lot of it. It's funny about Brock Purdy because obviously as an Eagles fan, I'm not a fan of him. I'm not a fan of the Niners. But I said about Purdy, I think he's a very good quarterback. I don't think he's in this upper echelon of elite quarterbacks yet. I do feel like that with any quarterback really, but it seems to be true with Purdy. If you can get there with four people and sort of disrupt his vision and get him off his first read, he struggles. And when they did not have Debo Samuel and they did not have Christian McCaffrey and they did not have Trent Williams, Brock Purdy looked like a completely different quarterback. So I think he's a very good quarterback that's also been elevated by the talent around him, by a very good coach in Shanahan, who, by the way, has not performed well in the biggest moments in the postseason. But what I need to see out of San Francisco that, and again, it's part of their team, so we're not going to see it a lot, but we still don't know how San Francisco is trailing from behind when you're down 7 to 10 points in the fourth quarter. Philadelphia and Dallas have both made fourth quarter comebacks this year, and San Francisco has not.
Right, Brandon. It'll be interesting to see game script, how all of that goes. Like I said before, I can't really give you my favorite out of those three teams. They're so deadlock and dead even, but I do think that Dallas, man, they have playmakers on defense. They have guys that score the football on defense. They have linebacker play. They look like they have it all right now. And so does San Francisco. But at the end of the day, we won't really know until the dust settles and we see you as home field, because all three of those environments are postseason level environments that are hard to win in.
Yeah, I agree. So I want to talk some draft stuff with you as well. Because I think the Chicago Bears are fascinating because we know they're pretty much guaranteed to get the number one pick in the draft. I said about Justin Fields about a month ago, going into like November, he had only had 5 career wins as an NFL starting quarterback, Mike. And I said, as good as Justin Fields could be on some nights, you got to win games in the NFL. There are quarterbacks that, make chicken stew out of chicken crap, if you will. And Fields has gotten better over the last month. He's played very well. Chicago has gotten better. But again, it's a defensive coach, which is another obstacle he has to overcome. But Caleb Williams is such a generational talent that I think it'd be very hard to pass up on him. But if Fields plays this well, especially at the end of the year, what do you do if you're Chicago? Because you're going to have, 2 top 10, if not possibly 2 top 6, 7-ish picks.
Well, if you're Chicago, I think you got to take a real hard look at yourself, because the man who's under center for the Pittsburgh Steelers right now, who's struggling mightily, was the guy that they took over Patrick Mahomes. So as good as Justin Fields can finish, is he really playing to stay in Chicago, or is he playing, to only really help Chicago and help them get more draft capital? I think they move away from Justin Fields because I feel like with that organization, they're ready to just build real raw talent. And I feel like Justin Fields has that. Unbelievable player. Terrific in college, wonderful quarterback. I'd take him on my team right now.
Yeah, I think we all kind of agree that, a team that, he's from the area, a team that maybe could fit would be Atlanta. A team that has a lot of good offensive pieces, would just be a quarterback away. I'm also curious because they're kind of in the same boat a little bit, is Arizona. I would have not played Kyler Murray the rest of the year. I said I think that they, a lot like Chicago, need to move on from Kyler, get a fresh start. I was in an argument with one of my buddies who said he didn't think you could get a 4th-round pick for Kyler. And I think there is such a premium in the NFL for a quarterback spot. I think teams would be willing to pay at least a second, if not a first, if they're guaranteed to get that guy, Kyler Murray, that we all know he could be. And if I'm Arizona, I would trade him. I would try to get, a draft pick, maybe a player as well, and then go forward and draft Drake May or whatever quarterback that is second on your board, whether it's Michael Penix, Bo Nix, whoever it may be.
It depends on what they could get for it, Brandon. When I look at the teams that would need a quarterback, And I mean, to pay that kind of a premium for a QB, you're thinking about teams like the New York Giants, teams like Las Vegas, teams like that. And they're going to still be in that draft area that Arizona is in. Is there somebody out there that loves Kyler who's just coming off an injury and just coming off a stint off injured reserve? They might not be able to get rid of him, Brandon. I know he has immense talent, but those injury scares are what scares GMs in the NFL.
That's fair. Okay, so last question for you is a little bit of a different question from the NFL. It's about these rookies. So a lot of people are banging on Bryce Young. I was a big fan of Bryce Young coming out. I defended the pick by Carolina. I thought he was the best quarterback in college. He has not had a good first year. People forget Peyton Manning really struggled his first couple years in the league. Trevor Lawrence recently, really struggled his first year in the league. I'm not ready to give up on Bryce Young. I think they need a lot of work on the offense side of the ball there in Carolina. CJ Stroud, yes, he leads the league in passing. Yes, the Texans have been a nice story this year, but I may be the only one. But the last month, to me, he has not played great. Maybe there's a little bit of a rookie wall there. Maybe he's better than I thought, but I still think long term, if you can get something special out of Bryce Young, he may be the better quarterback. My number one quarterback with the biggest upside in the draft was Anthony Richardson. I thought it was a perfect fit for the Colts. Unfortunately for him, he can't stay healthy. I wasn't the biggest fan of Will Levis by Tennessee. But I mean, what's your assessment of these rookie quarterbacks? How did you have them in the draft, and how do you look at them now?
I'm not going to talk like I'm some draft expert, Brandon, but I really had faith in CJ Stroud. I thought he was, based on the postseason play that I saw in the different situational football situations I saw him in, I love CJ Stroud. And for the NFL game, his game works really well. I love what they put together in Houston. I think he's the offensive rookie of the year. And I think when you look at a team like Houston, what a way to assert themselves. And they have all the Browns draft picks. So look out for them in the near future. I think they drafted the right guy. And it just remains to be seen if in year two, Bryce Young could be what everyone wants him to be.
All right,
We'll see. I love Stroud's talent.
All right, well, Mike, we're gonna switch gears now because we're gonna start off our wrestling topic. You know where we have to start off. The Saturday night after Thanksgiving, what took place in Chicago, Illinois. The man, the myth, the legend, Chick Magnet, Punk, along with Randy Orton, both made their triumphant returns to the WWE. There was obviously a lot of rumors out there, people saying Punk wasn't going to show up. I was not one of those people. I always believed he was going to show up. I never backed down. You can ask anybody that came on my podcast. I personally guaranteed them Punk was going to show up at Survivor Series. Are you happy he's back? How shocked were you he came back? And what's your excitement for the future, my man?
I was not shocked at all, Brandon, and I'll tell you why right now. Despite all the hype that was going around when he first returned to AEW back in 2021, this is the most that anyone has ever talked about CM Punk. And in order to capitalize on that energy, to capitalize on that buzz, WWE knew what they needed to do. Hey, CM Punk might be, injury prone in the eyes of some of the fans. A lot of people have a sour taste in their mouth about how CM Punk ended things in AEW or how AEW attempted to end things. And at the end of the day, the guy draws interest. The guy draws ratings. He is probably the top draw under the age of probably 50, other than John Cena, in the entire wrestling world. When we think about current legends and current drawing power, really, as far as guys that can still go in the ring and that are post Attitude Era, there's two guys. There's John Cena and there's CM Punk. Randy Orton's in there too, but he's still considered full time. But man, CM Punk coming back was a no brainer to me. if they were going to do this show in Survivor Series and him not show up, I think people would be very disappointed because at the end of the day, it's 10 years since he's been there. Whole new roster, whole new set of storylines. And I'm, of course, excited to see what's going to happen going forward because I'm going to be there every step of the way for it. First WrestleMania for me this year. And I'm super excited to be in the building for sure. I am so pumped.
WrestleMania 40. Let's jump right to it. This WrestleMania on paper, I think has the potential to be one of the best of all time when you look at the potential matchups coming our way. I'm going to jump right to night 2, the main event. So, in my opinion, there's 2 options. There's Roman and Cody 2, and then there is the other option out there of Roman Reigns versus The Rock. And we debated this back and forth last year, and I think fans are sort of getting tired of Roman Reigns' championship reign. And I think because of that, a lot of people want to see Roman versus Cody too, and Cody to win. But to me, Mike, if The Rock is available and The Rock gives you that thumbs up, hey, I want to do WrestleMania 40 in Philly, a historic wrestling town against Roman Reigns. I'm sorry to the American Nightmare, but that is a match you have to book night 2 for the main event of WrestleMania.
I agree with you, Brandon. I have no problem with that as your night 2 main event. That would obviously sell out Lincoln Financial Field, home of the Eagles, mind you. But at the end of the day, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. If The Rock is clear, do we get a triple threat match between Rock, Roman, and Cody? Is that something that they can pull off? But at the end of the day, I feel like no matter what, I feel like Roman could still retain. It's 50.
That was going to be my next question for you was, okay, well, let me just throw this scenario out there. Roman Cody 2, and Roman wins again.
And people would be disappointed, and I think the fans in Philadelphia would boo everything out of the building. I don't think that's a smart way to go about it. But you got to think of it this way. The one way, I mean, before I was in Cody's corner, I'm going to remain being in Cody's corner as me thinking he'll win. But it's not because of anything that's going on with the storyline right now, Brandon. It's because look at the roster around those 2 guys. We have ready-made guys that are ready to turn heel and feud with Cody Rhodes after WrestleMania if Roman's done. You know, you have Gunther. You have Dominic Mysterio. Priest could even be in there if he decides to cash in on him. I think Judgment Day is really one of the top acts in the company. They weren't that last year. And then, hey, CM Punk could turn heel just like that. Boom, we're there. And that's a money match. I think that there's a lot of heels around the roster, or a lot of guys that could turn heel. We still have Randy Orton there on the table too. There's a ton of guys that could feud with Cody for that title. Last year I didn't see that. This year I do. And I think, man, if The Rock does come back, you got to have that match, probably a one-on-one. But who's to say people wouldn't clamor over a Rock, Roman, Cody triple threat? I think that has money too. I think that for a crowd like Philadelphia, you got to give them what they want or they will boo it out of the building. And I think Cody's who they want. Now, don't get me wrong. The Rock's the most popular guy in the industry, most popular wrestler of all time, arguably. But I just see there's no way they keep Cody out of this main event. He's too hot right now, and there's not really a heel that is on his level without the championship. There's not really, I mean, anybody other than Roman would be a step down for him at this point.
So, Mike, how do we get there? Does Cody Rhodes win the Royal Rumble? Does CM Punk win the Royal Rumble? Does somebody else win it? Does Cody go for the Elimination Chamber? How are we setting up our main events for WrestleMania?
If I'm a betting man, you don't overdo it. Basically, people have already said, now this could totally be wrong, but supposedly Roman Reigns is not being advertised for Elimination Chamber in Perth. That, Australia. That pretty much does it for me. If I'm booking this, you have captivated enough storyline with CM Punk I feel like he can come in at number 30. I feel like he could win the Rumble match and not really take that much of a beating, reducing his chance for injury. Meanwhile, Roman Reigns won't be on the premium live event the following month at Elimination Chamber. If that happens, easy for me. You have Cody Rhodes win the Chamber, probably in his most dominant victory. Have him probably maybe even defeat, I don't know, somebody like a Gunther or somebody like an Omos or some major, big, massive monster heel. Maybe even throw Lesnar in the chamber. I don't know. And you have Cody win that. You have him slay some huge dragon in this intense chamber. Make it intense. Have him rebuild everything that he lost in last year's main event, because I don't think he's done that yet.
I agree.
I think from there, I think you have a ready-made main event. I think you build him up to being indestructible, and I think people will be clamoring for him and Roman night 2. Just because I like to keep my finger on the pulse a little bit when I'm sitting around on my lunch break. Sometimes I'll just look up wrestling Twitter, and people were clamoring for this main event, even though it's the second year in a row. I'm excited for it, but you got to get Cody there the right way. You got to have him overcome somebody, and I think maybe squaring off with Lesnar as the last 2 guys in the chamber could make for good TV.
I agree with that. And God, Mike, between the WWE moves, the AEW moves, I mean, since the 90s, when has wrestling been this exciting? And 2024 is going to get even better because there's a lot of contracts that are up on both sides of the ledger.
I wouldn't say that it's more exciting than the Attitude Era. I just think it's different. It's different because the fans that are really invested in the product are investing the most money than they ever have. I mean, WrestleMania 40 sold 60,000 tickets. As 60,000 tickets sold, and we haven't gotten a match for what is going to happen. I mean, that just shows you that it's more the brand, Brandon. It's more about the WWE. I was listening to something earlier today where it was back when Vince McMahon never referred to the championship as the world championship. Now that's changed. He always referred to the major championship as the WWE championship. And his reason for this was because everybody can be a world champion at different companies, but there's only one WWE champion. And there's only one WWE right now, Brandon. It's just guys are taking off, merchandise sales are going well. I think they've really leaned in to the streaming service aspect of things, making things affordable for people to get on and become fans of again. I think ever since the move with Triple H happened and with the sale to Endeavor Group, I think it's just been magical for them. They've been on a magical run really ever since Royal Rumble of this past January.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I know a buddy of mine who hated wrestling for years, never wanted to watch it, and now is a fan of it. You mentioned Triple H and Vince, and we sort of touched on this the last time you were on the podcast. But another year has passed since Triple H has taken over creative. And if there's one thing I've noticed in WWE is there's so many baby faces right now that are so hot. Cody, Seth, Sammy, Jey Uso, I mean, etc. LA Knight, who we haven't even talked about yet on this podcast, just the incredibleness of LA Knight. Yeah. And yeah. And I mean, just everything about WWE. WWE used to seemingly always be about the heels. And right now, there's one massive heel in the men's division, it's Roman Reigns. And there's so many good top baby faces for you to cheer for. And I think that's another aspect of why WWE is so hot right now.
There's money in the chase, Brandon. I mean, in reality, that's why it's always been a babyface territory, because way back when Hogan, they used to have a heel factory for him full of monster guys. Austin had McMahon and etc. But in reality, the money's in the chase, Brandon. The money is in these babyface talents getting themselves over, chasing themselves to getting us to think about Who's going to beat Roman for the belt? Who's going to be the guy? What does this remind you of? The streak. To me, this reminds you of the streak.
Yep.
Not in as far as Roman's won so many matches, but it leaves you asking yourself the question, who's going to be the guy?
So,
and I think since the streak was lost 10 years ago to Brock Lesnar,
yeah,
we've been missing that. And they used the COVID pandemic and the Thunderdome to slowly plant the seeds to where now we're clamoring for it more than ever. And now we finally have the storyline that is almost on the streak's level, if not is, and it's around the most important championship in the industry. It's the perfect storm, and you got to give credit to everybody involved, not just Roman and Paul Heyman in the bloodline, but also every babyface talent who's chased the championship. Everybody's played their part.
So what do we do with our man L.A. Knight? Yeah, because he is so hot. But as we just mentioned, with all these baby faces and most of them in the world title picture, L.A. Knight really going for a mid-card title like the U.S. Championship or even the Intercontinental Championship potentially down the line. It just, I don't want to say he feels bigger than that, but it's like in any other era, he'd be in the main world title picture, I feel like, and he just can't get there because there's so many people right now that need this opportunity more than him at this point.
Here's the thing, Brandon. I don't think that where he's at in the card is that bad at all. 20 years ago, back in 2004, we were saying the same thing. We had made events all over the board. We had the triple threat match, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, and Chris Benoit. We also had, Eddie Guerrero, Kurt Angle for the WWE Championship, two barn burner main events. And then we also had Goldberg, Brock Lesnar with Stone Cold as the ref, Undertaker and Kane, but somewhere sprinkled in, we had John Cena winning the United States Championship.
Good point.
Big springboard for him. Probably the one young guy that everybody wanted to cheer at that time. Everybody loved Cena when he was the doctor of Thugonomics. Boom, U.S. title, the next year world champion. Not saying that the same thing happens for L.A. Knight, but we can get there, Brandon. We need time. We need time to get there because there's a lot of different guys that need to work things out. And granted, I feel like the fan base for LA Knight, me included, we're going to stick behind this guy because we know that he's as talented as he is. We know he's as marketable as he is. There's a reason why he was the top merchandise seller for over 6 months. The guy has the most captivating promos in the business, and he's had that for 5 years, since before he even got there with the NWA and Impact. But as far as an opponent for LA Knight, I think you can go one of two ways. And you can't go wrong either way. Like, I would love to see, well, I guess I would love both of these. I won't be disappointed either way. If you have Logan Paul in there and you're ready for Logan Paul to drop the title, it's fair. You could have LA Knight defeat Logan Paul. You could have him lose to Logan Paul and then win it the following pay-per-view if you wanted to do that. You wanted to give Logan Paul the win. But one guy that I also want to see him compete against now more than later is the guy that just came back, Randy Orton. I feel like that would be a money feud. I feel like that way you can keep LA Knight as a babyface and you can have Randy turn heel kind of subtly, and you could have Randy just give him the full endorsement. I think either way, you're building to next year being when he takes the next step and wins a world title. I don't think that this will fall off because these merchandise sales indicate otherwise, and the fan reaction indicates otherwise. When I went to SummerSlam in Detroit and I dressed up as him just for fun, I had probably about 80 to 100 people just doing the catchphrase with me, and that was so much fun. That's engagement. I feel like he's captured the audience in ways that other guys haven't over the past 5 years. So, Logan Paul, Randy Orton, what are your thoughts, Brandon? Who do you want to see?
No, I completely agree with you. The other guy that I thought of was, and this is going to lead to my next question, who do you have to beat Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship and be the first guy to knock Gunther off. Because I think LA Knight, even though they're on different brands right now, obviously, I think LA Knight's a candidate for that. There's certainly other candidates as well. But I really like your Logan Paul idea. I think Randy Orton has to have a match with Roman first, which I think they're going to get at the Rumble before we turn Orton heel. Because I think Orton has got such a big pop for the fan base. This may be one of Randy Orton's best babyface runs he may ever go on. And I don't think you can turn Orton heel just yet.
I'm with you, Brandon. I agree that we need to get to the Rumble, and I think that's the match. Roman and Randy at the Royal Rumble in Tampa. And I think you basically throw everyone else in the Rumble. You could have Seth Rollins face off against a member of the Judgment Day again if you want. Or you could have Seth Rollins possibly face a Drew McIntyre at the Rumble. And you basically have that world title match covered. And then we go from there. But yeah, Brandon, I definitely see Randy Orton on the horizon for big things. And if I was a betting person, probably against LA Knight. But for your question, as far as Gunther goes, you're going to be shocked at this one, but I think that Lesnar might be the guy to beat him.
Wow. Okay. Now Lesnar's never won the Intercontinental Championship, so would it be for the title?
Yes. Absolutely. I mean, and you could have Gunther beat him, later on. Maybe after a month, maybe after 2 months, whatever the case may be. Maybe Lesnar might work with Nakamura and then he might lose it, back to Gunther. But I think there needs to be a dominant win. And I think Lesnar's that guy. I don't see anybody really that, because I mean, if you have one of the younger guys beat Gunther, you're really just asking us maybe to forget about everything that Gunther did and
it's a good point.
Take the legitimacy off of it, right? Just like get behind this young guy when we've gotten behind the young guy Gunther this whole time. Meanwhile, you have the ultimate streak beater in Lesnar.
Yes. Oh, that's a great point. Lesnar defeated the Undertaker streak. Gunther, we know, is going on 2 years, not being pinned on the main roster. So yeah, no, I can get down with that.
Hey man, and watch out. I mean, Lesnar, Intercontinental Champion on the main roster forever. Boom. I mean, then he feuds with somebody on SmackDown, or maybe somebody in the mid card, maybe like a Kevin Owens.
Yeah.
After a Lesnar hits, or get the title off him. Or if you want to, that way you could have Lesnar have one more title run. All I'm saying is I'm ready for Braun Baker to get to the main roster.
Yeah. No, I agree with you too.
Feud with Lesnar. I think that when we see Lesnar and Braun Breaker together, to me, I see dollar signs. And if we need to make Lesnar more legitimate to get to that matchup, I think that you could have him beat Gunther. I don't think it takes anything away from Gunther with a loss to Brock Lesnar. Brock's the Andre the Giant of the generation. I don't see anywhere where people would be very upset if this happened. I think that every great legend would do the same thing. I think every great legend that's Hall of Fame worthy, that's on that mountain, would want to beat Gunther as well. I don't think Gunther would take that to heart because he's a great talent. And as we saw with Kevin Owens, you could lose to anybody and maintain your stardom.
Absolutely, Mike. So listen, I'm not going to let you get out of here without talking about Adam Copeland and All Elite Wrestling. Your thoughts?
At the end of the day, Brandon, AEW is kind of in a pick up the pieces mode. They lost a lot of their mojo when Punk left. Now they're trying to rebuild. What I'm loving seeing is him and Christian Cage dueling it out, finally getting those moments in AEW and taking center stage. But after that, we just got to, if we're AEW, we've got to use absence makes the heart grow fonder. if Adam Copeland is on television every week, the magic wears off, just like it has been with basically all the other AEW debuts there have been. I mean, basically, you come out, everybody rejoices, everyone's excited, and then we kind of lose sight because week to week on Wednesday, they're worried about, well, let's give everybody the best match. Let's give everybody the best match. If anything, the best content they did was MJF and CM Punk. And those guys didn't wrestle every week. They cut promos, they told stories. And I think that's what we've got to continue to do. We've got to have Edge and Christian Cage drag out for another 6 months. And I think that'll be when we sit here and say, man, Adam Copeland delivered. But at this moment, still pretty early, and we'll see how it goes. Love the way this rivalry's worked out, but I'm just being honest.
Yeah, no, and I completely agree with you. And I've said, I've given AEW a try multiple times, and my biggest critique of the company, as you know, Mike, as I've said, is, and you just mentioned it, they want to give dream match after dream match, match after match after match, and there's not. Obviously, there's some exceptions, but there's not a whole ton of storytelling. And I also think they don't do as good of a job as WWE does. Obviously, nobody does as good of a job as WWE. But I really feel like with AEW, you really have to sort of watch every single week to sort of get caught up on what's happening on the shows and the storyline. Where I think WWE does a better job of, hey, you miss a couple weeks or you miss a couple shows, you can sort of fill yourself right back in and fill out the pieces because of the longer term developing storylines.
Well, because I remember, Brandon, you used to not really watch AEW, and now that your favorite wrestler's on the show, you want to know what's going on. And it's harder for you to do so because you haven't watched for so long. So, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but, but I mean,
fair point.
That's exactly what you're talking about. So with you being a new, AEW fan, because you're not a football fan, that's great. But they've got to keep in mind that there's some members of the audience that are new members of the audience that haven't been loyal AEW fans from day one.
Mike, it was a blast. It was a pleasure. I love having you on. I'm going to bring you on again around WrestleMania season. Thank you for joining us on this Christmas special, and good luck to your Steelers the rest of the way. We'll see what happens as we get into these NFL playoffs.
Thanks, man. Good luck to your Eagles. Good luck to you, and have a Merry Christmas, brother.
Thank you. And coming up next here on the Brands World Christmas special, I give my predictions for 2024, the year in sports. And to end the 2023 Brandon's World Christmas special, I'm going to be giving you my predictions on what will happen in sports in 2024. No, this will not be who I think will win the Super Bowl. It will not be who I think will win the NBA Finals. It will not be who I think will win the World Series. I'm going to give you bigger picture items of what will happen in the NFL, in the NBA, in Major League Baseball, in college football, in college basketball. Some of the bigger storylines, and in wrestling as well, by the way. Some of the bigger storylines that we will be talking about at this time next year when I end my NFL award, my WWE Slammy awards, when we do these interviews that I've done with Michael Reiner, with Jalen Sandvik. So without further ado, we're going to start it off in the NFL, where I believe next year, Bill Belichick will be the head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, at the time of this recording, yesterday, after that beatdown the Chargers received from the Las Vegas Raiders on Thursday Night Football, Brandon Staley was relieved of his duties. Should have happened a long time ago, as more NFL fans know than not. However, with that being said, Bill Belichick now reportedly is going to be removed out of his position of power in New England. I've said I think New England needs to move on from the Belichick coaching tree. I think they need to get a completely new coach in there. There's some thought of, in that building, that culture, you cannot change it up that quickly. I really think Tom Brady was more the Patriot way than that culture. I think they need an offensive coach from outside of the organization to come in and just do a complete reset with the franchise. And for Belichick, to me, the Chargers would make perfect sense. Great quarterback in Justin Herbert, great running back in Austin Eckler, two great weapons in Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. He would not essentially have to worry about the offense side of the ball. And who knows, if Kellen Moore doesn't get a head coaching job, he may be back there as the Chargers OC. Defensively, you have two great pass rushers. Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, a great safety in Derwin James, a great corner in Asante Samuel Jr. Belichick obviously coached his father. That's an NFL-made roster. And yes, you're in a division with Patrick Mahomes. You're in a division with Sean Payton. You're in a division with Vegas, which we'll see what they're going to do at the quarterback position. But that is a team that has a lot of talent to win a lot of games. The Chargers have not gotten over the hump. Justin Herbert maybe needs a coach like Belichick the way Tom Brady needed a coach like Belichick. It looks like a perfect fit to me. Now, you all know how for the last 2 years on Brand's World, I have been very critical of defensive-minded head coaches. I just talked about one in Belichick, who doesn't seem to understand the urgency of the quarterback position and offense in today's NFL. Same thing can be said about Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh. Sean McDermott in Buffalo, even though he has a great quarterback in Josh Allen, they have not been able to fix the offensive line since he's been there. However, outside of Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson, I do not see a ton of great offensive assistants available. I think that there are good defensive coaches. Wesley Frazier make it back in the cycle. Lou Anaromo, Dan Quinn, excuse me. And so with that logic in mind, I do believe that more defensive coaches will be hired this offseason than offensive-minded head coaches. My next prediction in the NFL, the brotherly shove will not be banned, but the hip drop tackle will be. The NFL has talked about this hip drop tackle, saying that there's a ton of injuries. They're going to find a way to alternate it. I do not think that they're going to ban the brotherly shove because I think the NFL is realizing that with Jalen Hurts and with Jason Kelce, the Philadelphia Eagles, the way they run it is different than any other team in the league. Who knows? They may ban the fact that, you may not be allowed to push the quarterback from behind, but I don't think they're going to flat out ban the formation. My next prediction will be that this upcoming NFL draft will be the most watched NFL draft ever. We know that this year coming out of college, we have 6 potential first-round quarterbacks. Caleb Williams, Drake May, Michael Penix, Bo Nix, J.J. McCarthy, Jaden McDaniels, along with studs like Marvin Harrison Jr. It's also a great left tackle draft. Listen, we know that college is being more integrated in the NFL game. We know it's a quarterback-driven game. I think with the anticipation of this NFL draft, especially with what will the Chicago Bears do? What will the Arizona Cardinals do? What will the New England Patriots do? I think this draft will be the most watched NFL draft ever because it's one of the most loaded NFL draft classes we've ever had. For next year at this time, I believe we will be talking about the New York Giants having the number 1 pick in the 2025 NFL draft. I've gone around this league and I've looked at the teams. Obviously, I don't think New England is going to be that bad to get the number 1 pick. I think they're going to get an offensive coach. I think they're going to win more games. And even if Belichick does stay, they're not going to be as bad as what they were this year. The Jets are obviously going to bring back Aaron Rodgers. Vegas, I think that they will win more games. Again, I think they will get an offensive coach. I think they will turn it around. Tennessee, they're not going to, bottom out with Mike Vrabel. I think those are your candidates in the AFC. And in the NFC, again, I think the Commanders with new ownership are going to get an offensive coach. They're going to focus more to the offensive side of the ball. Arizona is just going to win more games with Kyler Murray than they're not, considering the fact that they look like that they're going to keep them. And then in the NFC South, I do think Bryce Young, again, a lot like Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville, they're going to redo the roster. They're going to spend a lot of money on the offensive side of the ball, where the Giants, I just do not see with quarterbacks Daniel Jones and Tommy DeVito, and they do not have a ton of talent. I think that they could be the worst team in the league, especially if Daniel Jones comes back next year and is their starter. I think that they, are winning a lot of these lucky games with Tommy DeVito. They're playing really good defense here towards the end of the year. I think the Giants have a really low ceiling. They need to go and get a franchise quarterback, and I think they're the team to look out for who could have the number one pick potentially at this time next year. I believe that Marvin Harrison will win the Offensive Rookie of the Year because no matter where Caleb Williams goes, he could struggle as a rookie. Drake May could struggle as a rookie. CJ Stroud has had such a good year as a rookie. We often don't see that. And even though we just mentioned the 6 quarterbacks, it really all depends on where they land. Marvin Harrison Jr., I think he's a day one, number one wide receiver. I think he's a Jamar Chase Justin Jefferson as impact in the league. There's a reason why people are talking about him potentially going to Chicago with the number one pick, and they would even skip over Caleb Williams and not trade the pick and just go get the best weapon that maybe has come out of college, even since Calvin Johnson. And we know how great Jefferson and Chase is. That is my prediction. Marvin Harrison will work anywhere. I think he will win the Offensive Rookie of the Year. Moving on to the NBA, I believe that NBC will get back in the rotation with the media rights. I think by this time, next year, we'll know. We may even know early January, February, where the NBA will be in 2025 and 2026 when their media rights deal currently expires. The NBA wants to get in with a lot of media partners, whether it be ESPN/ABC, Turner Sports with TNT, streaming with Amazon or Apple. But we have heard all along that NBC Universal, that NBC wants to get back in the rotation. Of course, they were big in the NBA in the 90s during the Michael Jordan era. With an NBC will at least have a couple games a week. They will be simultaneously streamed on Peacock. We may have a couple exclusive Peacock games, as the NFL has even gone there this year by doing an exclusive Peacock wildcard matchup. That, I believe, will be the case. NBC will be back in the NBA when it gets time for 2026, and we will know by the end of next year where the NBA media rights deal will land. And I believe Giannis Antetokounmpo at the end of this season will be your 2023-2024 NBA regular season MVP. We just saw him recently score 64 points, and maybe for the first time on a basketball court, swear because he did not have the ball. Giannis feels humiliated over last year's first round exit to the Miami Heat. Excuse me, people are saying he is no longer the best player in the world. It's gone to Nikola Jokic, or people like me that are still saying they'd potentially take LeBron James and Steph Curry over Giannis. Giannis now with Damian Lillard is on a mission to flip that script. I don't think the Milwaukee Bucks, we'll see. They definitely do have a shot to win the NBA championship this year. I think that they have to get to the finals for this year to be considered a success, but I think Giannis will be tearing up the league. I don't think that they're going to give it to Nikola Jokic back-to-back years. 3 out of 4. I don't think Joel Embiid is going to win it. I think this year, Giannis becomes a 3-time NBA MVP. I don't see any major moves at the trade deadline. The only one I can really think of is potentially Donovan Mitchell. If the Cleveland Cavaliers, who just lost Darius Garland and Evan Mobley to various injuries for the next 2 months, if they really fall out of it, could they make a deal for Donovan Mitchell? Yes, potentially, but I don't see a lot of major stars on the move at this year's trade deadline. I also believe, though, that this will be the last year of the Golden State dynasty. We see it falling apart. We see Draymond Green being suspended indefinitely. We see Klay Thompson is basically a shell of himself. Steph Curry is now getting hurt. He's not playing as many games as he used to. This Warriors team, when they won the title in 2022, it was sort of their last dance. Last year with the Jordan Poole incident, they could not win a game on the road outside of Game 7 against Sacramento in the first round of the playoffs. They managed to get to the second round, but LeBron James and the Lakers finished them off. And LeBron, who could not beat the Golden State dynasty in Cleveland, may have ended them in Los Angeles. At this point, I'm not even sure the Warriors are a playoff team. I think they realize it's over. They're old. They're falling apart. They have to get younger. Is Steve Kerr the answer? Or, do they have to go get a younger head coach? That's going to be a question, I believe, as well over the next year or two. And my last NBA prediction, the Nuggets will not make the NBA Finals. I think the competition in the West this year, I think the Lakers are a very good team. I think they're the most deep team. Look out for Phoenix, too, if they're all healthy. Obviously, Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks. And obviously, Minnesota is being the Sacramento of this year. Sacramento is still in there. Memphis, I think, will get back in the picture once John Morant is eligible to play. There's just a ton of good teams in the West, and the NBA has never been more balanced. And even though in the NBA historically, it is the easiest sport to go back to back, to make back to back finals, and to win back to back championships, Jamal Murray's been hurt. This kind of feels like a different year for Denver where Nikola Jokic is the whole team. Jamal Murray was great in the postseason last year. He was big to their success. They've lost some of their rotational pieces. They just don't feel as dominant. And, they may make the Western Conference Finals, but I don't think an NBA Finals this year is in the card for the Denver Nuggets. For Major League Baseball, I only have one prediction. Last year we got all of the rule changes. This year we're not getting, really any significant rule changes. I think the rule changes, we all were kind of against them at first, but we sort of weren't. They are, for the better and they are working. And Major League Baseball was more fun to watch this year than in the past. But the Los Angeles Dodgers just got Shohei Ohtani. The New York Yankees just got Juan Soto. I believe that they will both not win the World Series. I don't know who's going to win the World Series. I'm not going to make that prediction. But as we saw this year with the Texas Rangers and the Arizona Diamondbacks, especially with Arizona, it is not about your payroll. You can talk to your payroll in baseball till you're blue in the face. It's not about that. It's about getting on. It's about playing together. It's about getting timely hitting at the right time and shutting down opposing offenses. The Dodgers and Yankees lineups are both nasty. I would take the Dodgers rotation over the Yankees rotation, though I think the Yankees rotation is very good. This Yankees team, with essentially all they did was add Juan Soto and give up prospects, did not make the playoffs last year in a very heavy contended, AL East. Toronto is still good. Tampa is still good. Baltimore is going to be good for years. Boston, they had a down year last year. They don't have a lot of back-to-back down years. That AL East is going to be very competitive. In the NL West, the Giants, I think, are going to bounce back. They're one of those teams that have a good year, bad year, good year, bad year. Arizona may come back down to earth a little bit. And yes, Colorado is bad. I think the Dodgers, again, we'll see if they, I think they'll obviously win the NL West. We'll see if Ohtani can get them over the hump. I've said it, even though Shohei Ohtani, in my opinion, is claimed by the media as the best baseball player in the game. Very hard because Ohtani could, go 50 straight hits. If nobody else is hitting, you can't win. Ohtani could win the Cy Young. If nobody else is good in the rotation, you're not going to win a lot of games. Baseball is a very team-dependent sport. That's why I think oftentimes maybe the teams that aren't as talented but are together, they can string hits, they play the small ball really well. Those are the teams that often win the World Series. How about in wrestling, folks? Because this is going to be controversial. I believe that Cody Rhodes will not finish his story. Yes, you heard that right. I think Cody may go to WrestleMania 40. If The Rock is available, I do not believe Cody Rhodes will face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40. I do believe it will be Dwayne Johnson. But I do not think Cody Rhodes is going to win the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. You heard my conversation earlier with Michael Reiner. I understand the fans want it. Michael thinks there's time. There's a lot of feuds there with Cody Rhodes. and you heard my conversation with Jalen Sandvik earlier, I do believe that there are still feet on the bone here with Roman Reigns. You know, AJ Styles, Sheamus, another match with LA Knight, a guy like Braun Breaker, CM Punk, obviously. I think there are still feuds there for Roman Reigns to have. I'm not ready to give up on this undisputed championship reign for Roman Reigns. And as Michael Reiner would say, the money is in the chase. And I think Cody Rhodes winning the undisputed championship, it's not his time. Roman Reigns is not going away. It's not time yet for Cody Rhodes to take over the company. As I said earlier in my Slammy Awards, the whole sun in WWE. Seth Rollins, Jey Uso, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, LA Knight. Yeah, Randy Orton, all these hot baby faces. The sun still revolves around the tribal chief. I believe CM Punk will win the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania 40 against Seth Rollins. Overall, as a company, I believe WWE will continue the upward trend. They are so hot right now. Again, a lot of it is because of the characters and the roster development and the time they are spending on storylines, not rushing into things, giving you to care about weekly. Signs are back, crowds are loud, fan investment. It has never felt this good to be a WWE fan in about 2 decades. And I believe the upward trend for the company will continue in 2024. I think one of the breakout candidates for next year, outside of Santos Escobar, who I think his feud with Rey Mysterio will make him a dastardly heel. But I'm going to go with Grayson Waller. I think the kid has tremendous ego. I think he's just, for lack of a better term, a dick in real life. He gets a lot of boos, more booze than Theory. I think it's the reason why they put him and Theory together, to try to get some rub from Waller on a Theory, because basically Grayson Waller is what Austin Theory should be. Grayson Waller reminds me of the new Miz. I think he's a special talent. I think he'll continue to get more boos and break out as a heel in 2024. I believe that LA Knight, will be crowned a champion in 2024, whether it's the United States champion with Logan Paul, whether it's the Intercontinental Championship with Gunther. I think LA Knight, will win his first singles championship in 2024. Speaking of 2024, I think WrestleMania 40 will be an all-time event. Rhea Ripley, Becky Lynch, potentially Roman Cody 2 or Roman versus The Rock, CM Punk versus Seth Rollins, LA Knight versus Logan Paul, Ray versus Dominic 2, or a form of Ray and Santos Escobar, or something with the LWO, Jey Uso versus Jimmy Uso. Those are just some of the matches that I can already see coming down the pipeline. Maybe Gunther and Brock Lesnar as well. I think for the first time in a long time, WWE has had a plan in mind for WrestleMania 40. You can see it ever since the days of WrestleMania 39. Obviously, back in the day, before Vince McMahon lost his mind, they used to plan out all of these WrestleManias months in advance. You're seeing it again in WWE, and I think WrestleMania 40, a milestone WrestleMania in a great wrestling city, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Lincoln Financial Field, the home of the Philadelphia Eagles, will be an all-time event. I think premium live events will continue to be strong, whether Roman Reigns is on them or not. I talked about it a little bit earlier in the show today, with the Slammy Awards, the international crowds, WWE going to Australia, going to Berlin, going to Brazil. I think they're just going to, and France. I think they're just going to have a stronger year with premium live events than even what it was in 2023. And my last prediction will be that the new TV deals that WWE will get for Monday Night Raw, Friday Night SmackDown, and NXT will change the industry. And I'm mostly obviously talking about Raw, because there have been rumors out there that Warner Brothers, who of course hosts AEW Dynamite, AEW Collision, AEW Rampage, is now interested in Monday Night Raw. If WWE Monday Night Raw goes to Warner Brothers, which I think it really does sound like it's possible now. Where will AEW land? How will that affect AEW? Will they continue to be the second biggest product in wrestling, though they're nowhere close to WWE, in my opinion? I think the new TV deals will change the industry. If Raw does not go to Warner Brothers, does Warner Brothers up with AEW, and for how much? Let's go to college football. I do think that we will have massive ratings next year in college football. I think that the sport is only getting more popular. Deion Sanders obviously up that at the start of the year. The NFL, unlike the NBA with college basketball, where the NBA is more about overseas and G League now than college basketball. The NFL has embraced college football. They're telling their fans to watch college football. There's more talent in college football ever before. And with, Texas and Oklahoma moving to the SEC, with Oregon and, UCLA and all these Pac-12 teams, USC moving to the Big Ten, we will have massive ratings in college football. It may be the most viewed college football season ever, with the West Coast teams wanting to watch East Coast teams and East Coast teams wanting to stay up late to watch the West Coast because they're all in the same conference. I think it was a terrific move. Now, the 12-team playoff I talked about, I think it could have been 6. I think it could have been 8. I get the expanded from 4. I think it's going to ruin the little bit of magic the last 2 weeks of the regular season has. But nonetheless, I think next year will be a huge year ratings-wise for college football. Cream will rise to the crop. What I mean by that is, again, even in the top 12 college football playoff, we will know there will only be between 4 and 6 teams every year that could win the national championship. And again, unfortunately, now with this 12-team playoff, we're not going to have that debate. But, teams like Missouri, a team like Auburn, a team like LSU, let's say, or Penn State, teams from this year who could have been in the college football playoff, they're not really national championship contenders. Even Florida State, without Jordan Travis, as I've said multiple times, is not really a college football playoff contender. We know basically, Georgia, Michigan, Oregon, Washington, Texas, Alabama, those are your 6 teams that could win the college football playoff. And again, this year, only 4 could make it. I think that this year, this coming up this January, Jim Harbaugh will not only stay in Michigan, but Michigan will win the national championship. Jim Harbaugh will get an extension. The NFL talk will simmer down as Jim Harbaugh in Michigan will win another national championship, and Harbaugh finally puts his stamp on the University of Michigan program. And lastly, in college basketball, I think we will have another Cinderella year of March Madness. We know last year March Madness was crazy. I think this year we could have another year where it's upsets galore and there's 10 seeds and 12 seeds in the Final Four. And I think it will be the new normal going forward in the Cinderella March Madness tournament, which I think, we all talk about one Cinderella team. I think there could be 5 or 6. We may have to rename the NCAA tournament the Cinderella tournament. And the reason is because, like I said, just a tiny bit earlier, the NBA now has embraced the G League. They've embraced overseas. We're getting more stars like Victor Wembanyama, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Nikola Jokic. They are all not from the United States. The NBA, Luka Doncic as well. The NBA has really embraced sort of the globalness of the game. With that in mind, college basketball has hurt. There's not a ton of stars, and with the NBA's G League, a lot of the great players in the league are figuring out, hey, we can go to the NBA early, get paid more than even NIL money, and get professional experience. Which is why some of these top draft picks are coming from the G League. So there's not as much talent in college basketball. It's a lot of mid first round to second round picks, which means the teams are more even. And in a 1-game elimination tournament, when teams are more even, you're going to get more upsets. And that will will do it for the 2023 Brandon's World Christmas Special. I want to say a special thank you to Jalen Sandvik and Michael Reiner for coming on this special. I want to say a special thank you to all of you, whether you're listening on audio. And if you're listening on audio in a few of those segments, I hope you enjoyed the wonderful Christmas music that was played. Again, on video, we unfortunately cannot do that due to copyright issues. If you're watching on YouTube, again, I appreciate all the support. We've gone tremendously in audio and video, not only in subscribers, but views over the past year. We are in collaboration with Voltage Live, and as you've seen, there have been multiple days of recording in this. As you can tell by my clothes changes, my shaving of my beard in between recordings. This took a lot of time to put together. So I hope you leave a like. I hope you leave a comment. I hope you enjoy. Happy holidays, happy new year, Merry Christmas to everybody out there. And again, I apologize if my voice has changed on some of these recordings, depending on the day. I've developed some sort of December allergy, I guess, living in the Northeast. So my voice has not been perfect over the last few days, but I appreciate you guys all hanging in there. If I sound nasally or I have a little bit of a cough here and there, again, it's the nature of this business. I am looking forward to growing this podcast so much in 2024. Sometimes when you use your voice as much as I do, you're gonna have these days where you struggle to talk, especially when your immune system, like mine, is not the strongest in the world. So just one more time, I appreciate you all for hanging in there with me. And I'm a huge Philadelphia Eagles fan. Go Birds. This is the Brandon's World Merry Christmas special. And we will see you all later.